Look, if you had one podcast or one opportunity to rate every movie you ever wanted, one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? His palms are sweaty, knees weak, popcorn heavy. There's vomit on his crew neck sweater already. Max Spaghetti, he's nervous, but in the theater he looks calm and ready to drop ratings. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole podcast goes so loud. He opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking now. Kyle's joking now. Audacity's run out. Time's up. Over. Blow. Snap back to the AMC. Up. Sandra Bullock's Gravity. Up. There goes Roger Rabbit. He choked. He's so mad, but he won't podcast that easy. Nope. He won't have it. He knows his stash is to these ropes. It don't matter. He's dope. Sam knows that, but he's broke. He's so sad that he knows when he goes back to the studio. That's when it's back to the cast again, yo. This whole rap podcast, he better go capture this moment and hope it don't movie pass him. You better lose yourself in the movies. Believe that you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to pod. The Neon Crew podcast comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the movies. Believe that you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to pod. The Neon Crew podcast comes once in a lifetime.
Yeah. There we go.
Totally flawless. Got through it without any sort of hiccups or bumps.
You can edit that in post.
If you think you heard something that might have been a hiccup or, an error in my flow, you're wrong and you're stupid and I hate you. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome
to the 75th episode of the Neon Crew podcast. My name is Kyle.
I'm McClain.
And thank you for indulging me in that. I am very out of breath right now.
I think that will stick.
Either it'll stick or people will shut off the episode immediately when they hear this bullshit.
Oh, I guess I could. Now I see what you're saying when you say crusty. I don't know. It's all right.
I appreciate that.
It's like a Weird Al Yankovic spin.
I tried my best to horribly squeeze in as many podcast or movie idioms as I possibly could.
Yeah.
The crustiest one being the Roger Rabbit reference, which is not a movie that we've discussed on here.
I've seen it a couple times.
And neither is Sandra Bullock's Gravity.
Don't need to.
Yeah, her floating around in space.
Yep. Saw that in theaters by myself.
I did not see that in theaters. I think I saw it when it was on demand or something, Charter on Demand at my parents' house.
One of the first movies that I was like, I'm going to treat myself.
Oh,
I'm
really?
going to go by myself. I'm going to own it. Yeah, it was like 2012, 2013. Somewhere in that range. Mm-hmm. No one in Muskegon. I'm going to go by myself and watch this. Probably just as bad, like Moonfall level experience.
I would have been a senior in high school or graduating high school.
Oh, okay.
Around that time.
Nice. So,
yeah, you were in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Getting it going.
Yeah.
Getting the Mac down.
Right before the blip.
Exactly. So, yeah, if you'll indulge me one more time, I can give my backup intro, which was very short.
Oh, okay.
And I would have implemented in case the other one went terribly wrong. What about the Neon Crew podcast? Point it down.
Tom Hardy's interesting accent.
So, which would you say I nailed more? The Eminem Lose Yourself parody?
Both were good. Both were good.
I appreciate that.
Both were good. I like play on musics. Play on music.
I like when
lyrics.
Music plays on.
Yeah. Also, but that Tom Hardy one, I don't know if it's hard to get his accent all that messed up.
You gotta kind of sound a little wily, a little squeezy.
Benny, where you going, Benny? What do you think you're gonna do? I need to take over the club. What are you doing?
Hey, do you think I'm a nice guy?
Yeah.
Hey, do you think I'm a good guy there, Benny? Burn it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about some films.
We are.
But first, I wanted to get your thoughts on these, and I'm going to actually send you the photos.
Okay.
To get your reaction, because I don't know if you've seen them yet or not. I'm sending them as a bunch on Messenger, so hopefully they should go through pretty quickly.
Okay.
But they released images from
13 photos.
And you'll see what they are, but Ridley Scott, or I should say Vanity Fair, released some images of the upcoming epic gonna be awesome. Gladiator II. Max pulling it up right now.
I don't have Messenger set up on my new phone.
Oh shit! Really?
Well, it's on there. I just gotta.
Also,
Pedro Pascal versus his son. I like Pedro Pascal on this.
Versus his son.
Yeah. I don't know what they're doing. One looks like he's throwing a sword at the other guy.
That is true. So, Paul Mescal is playing the kid from the first movie, whose name I forget.
Kid.
Yeah, boy one.
Yeah.
And also, I will say this for our listeners. I will include pictures in the video version so that you guys can check out those. But yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on these pictures because I know Gladiator 2 is something that you have vocally voiced disdain over.
I talked to my brother a little bit about this. And we'll see what happens with a couple of these sequels coming out. If a movie follows up as a sequel in the sense that we're continuing the story on and building up the same benchmarks of the first story and plugging in some of the things that we missed, or really just watering down what happened in the original, sucks. We were talking about Twisters, of course.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, this will probably remind me a lot of the sentiment we had talking about Twisters.
Yeah, and we might have talked about this too, but if they're able to create an original story using some of the elements from the first one, pardon the pun. Speaking of Twisters, I guess. Then I can get behind it a little bit more. Where if this story, if Gladiator 2 comes out and it is boy one carrying on the legacy, or avenging, but it has its own story arcs and characters, and it only uses a little bit of what happened in the past to build the story, I'll be fine with it. If it's a lot of we're gonna take the same trajectory, put him in here, he's gonna be a prisoner of war, he's back in here, he's got to fight his way out, and he's gonna kill the ruthless Caesar, Czar, whatever they got going on there, I'll be like, pass.
Yeah, either the worst things that they could do are either they basically repeat the entire story of the first movie, verbatim almost, and just go with it, or they spend the entire movie doing like Marvel movie cameo-esque type of things where it's like, hey, do you remember
Easter
this?
Eggs, right?
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, like way too heavy-handed in it, which I feel like hopefully won't happen, but
right.
I don't know. It's Ridley Scott, so you never really know with him. The quality that you get is like the flip of a coin.
Recently.
Yeah, exactly. But Connie Nielsen in these pictures, she looks pretty damn near the same as she did in the old movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very curious where this is going to go. I like pretty much most everyone that I recognize in this. Paul Mescal. I don't know if you're familiar with any of his movies. After Sun, he's really great in After Sun, and also All of Us Strangers. I recently watched that and I loved it.
I think that might be on my watch list.
Yeah, he's really good in those. I would recommend those to you. And then Pedro Pascal, who I shouldn't be surprised he's in this movie because that boy is everywhere.
Yeah,
he pops up like a whack-a-mole.
He's I'm trying to think of like a guy from the 90s or the 2000s that you could, just hops into films. And
right, would be like an equivalent.
Yeah, I'm in good hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see it. Denzel looks like he's going to be more of like a villainous type of character.
Looking good on the throne.
Which, I don't know when the last time he played a villain in a movie was. I know he was one in Training Day, and then I think in American Gangster he was kind of a bad guy, right?
Yeah, he was, but he's a very... I'd be curious. Because he plays like a, not necessarily watered down, but always like a business, like a professional villain.
Yeah.
Like we have business to do, and that's why I'm the bad guy. So I'm looking out for number one.
He's scary because he's confident.
Yes. Not necessarily because he's like off the rails or a sociopath or anything like that. So it'd be, if we get confident badass Denzel though,
yeah,
he's gonna be in a position of power here, possibly.
I will say, just looking at the cast members and how they're dolled up in this movie, they all look like they fit pretty well. Like, it doesn't seem to me like anyone has a case of iPhone face in this, when it's supposed to be a period piece. Like, Paul Mescal looks like he could be a Roman warrior just in regular life.
Yes.
Yeah, and he got pretty built for this movie.
Yeah.
And then Denzel's looking really good. Handsome man.
They're all. I'm curious as to what his role will be, because there's also another picture in there of like a Joaquin Phoenix guy.
So I read a little bit of the Vanity Fair captions. Jeez. So there's actually 2 brother emperors in this that are supposed to be like the sort of Joaquin Phoenix types.
Yeah,
I guess in this movie.
Yeah.
One of them played by I forget his name, but he's going to be in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie.
Great, another flop.
Hey, we'll see. I'm not going to go one way or the other.
Is this the 4th iteration of it in the last 20 years?
Yeah, well, it's 4's in the title. They got to hit at least 4.
Fantastic Four. It's a double entendre.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That is.
Did you see Did you see Fant Four Stick? The
what?
Miles Teller one? Did you ever come across?
Never. Dude, they got 2 of these pieces of shit out, and I remember watching the Fantastic Four. I think are just really lame superheroes. That's why I don't think it would ever work. Like, you have to. Sorry if you're listening and you're a Fantastic Four person.
If you're a fantastic fan of the Fantastic Four. Anyway,
yes.
Continue.
I don't know why they flop, but it's like The Incredibles did a better job of being the Fantastic Four than they did.
The Incredibles is the best Fantastic Four movie that exists.
Yes.
And it's not even Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Which,
you know what I'm like? So I don't know. They keep diving into this well. Like, they're gonna make it. So I'm always curious as to how they do it. Like, the first couple were cartoony, and then I think the Miles Teller one was supposed to be a little bit more grounded in reality, and now this one's gonna be
like darker, kind of like more brooding.
Yeah. I'm curious. Maybe this one will be like The Dark Knight, or or we get Christopher Reeve's Batman.
Well, it's supposed to be part of the MCU, so I doubt it'll be like The Dark Knight.
Probably not. Probably be self-referential piece of shit.
If I were to guess, I would say it's going to go for the same tone as, all the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, or Ant-Man.
God, I hope not. Please, no.
I don't even know. Like, one's a doctor. Aren't they all doctors, or like
they're all like super smart scientists?
Yeah. Like, how's that kick ass? Not to say that if you are a smart scientist, you probably show a paycheck, but like,
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll just have to find out. Yeah, one of them stretches. The other one turns to fire.
Yeah.
The other one is rocks.
Like, he's stuck as a rock.
Yeah. I feel like that'd be more of a like an eldritch curse than anything.
He's like, yeah, you're the lamer version of the Incredible Hulk.
It's funny. As a kid, I would look at that character and I would just think, oh, it's Orange Hulk.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But it also makes you question too. Like, does water ruin him?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get in the whole like Sandman discussion again about like the physics of how he works.
Yeah, I know. How does he eat?
Yes.
What's his anatomy?
I'm impressed by our ability to swerve from a Gladiator II discussion to Fantastic Four.
No, that's got more meat on the bone.
You know what? Yeah,
Gladiator 2's got like possibly some promise of being all right.
Well, we'll talk about it when the trailer releases, whenever that is.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see.
The trailer
they got
discussion
production on it. They've got Vanity Fair writing up on it. Like, they've got to be getting close to. They're trying to hype this thing up.
Yeah.
Well,
shit. They got to make like $1 billion. So.
Oh shit! This is what that thing costs.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, we discussed it before. The budget of potentially being as high as $310 million, which would make it one of the most expensive movies ever made.
Ridley, you've had a great track record recently. Here's the entire playbook.
Yeah. Oh, really? Do you want just like our whole studio funds? Here you go.
Yeah. This has got to make it, or else we're going to be out of producing movies over the next year and a half.
Yeah. Speaking of producing movies, fucking Universal, I shouldn't say that. Regency Enterprises, new Regency Tri-State Pictures, produced this movie.
Yes, I know where you're going.
And I'm talking about
vroom, vroom.
The Bikeriders.
Boom.
Ayo. So
do you want me to do this since
yes,
you did
please.
8 Mile?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be walking down the mile for a while.
I'm interested. That one I'm very curious. This one too, but I don't know. I'm a little curious as to where you're at with this one.
Both movies have to do with roads. There's the attachment. There's the commonality.
Yeah, I was gonna say the potential main character only having total of 20 lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
So the Bikeriders.
What are you talking about? Eminem had so many lines. Did you not hear my intro?
I was about to say. We'll talk about it when we get to 8 Mile. The Bikeriders. 2023 release, 2024 release. Right? Yeah. This thing
It's
had
one of
like
those
a production nightmare.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like festival release 2023.
Yeah.
Like theater wide release 2024.
Disney's going to drop it because we don't like that it's got this stigma around it. We'll get into it.
Yes.
All right, The Bikeriders, starring Austin Butler as Benny, Jodie Comer
I'm Benny
as Kathy, who runs the show. Tom Hardy as Danny.
Point it down.
Bring it down. Our boy.
So you want to be a bike rider?
Shannon as Zipco. I was so happy to see him in this thing.
He's great.
Mike Fost as Danny, and Boyd Holbrook as Cal. And then I'm going to just say it because it threw me off. I couldn't tell. I thought it was him, and I was like, I don't know, man. That's a lot of prosthetics.
That's a testament to the movie.
Norman Reedus as Funny Sonny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the movie takes place.
Heard you guys are fucking shit up down here.
Well, he hands him a $1 bill. He's
I
like,
cannot
"Here's for
impersonate Norman Reedus to save my life. It's like I would have to like scream at the top of my lungs for like 5 minutes straight and then try to talk with like cigarettes in my mouth.
Yeah, that's kind of what he did.
Yeah.
But anyways, takes place over, because we'll get into all of it. From 1966 to 73, I think it was Danny Lyons, if I'm not mistaken, did a kind of like a photojournalistic approach to taking pictures of bike riders and being a part of the gang.
Yep. Portrayed by Mike Faced, who was in Challengers.
Yes. And he was good in this. I think we'll get into it.
Yes.
I read a little bit about him. This kind of chronicles the fictitious Vandals, which are actually the Outlaws of Chicago. That was the bike gang that he was a part of. That's still running today. He was, doing his photography with.
Yeah, sort of like on the ground, sort of personal journalism type of thing.
I mean, it started out with him
like
at least,
documenting the group as it like rises and falls.
But he didn't have intents or purposes of like capturing a lot of like the dialogue at the beginning. It was mostly just for his photojournal entries for college, right?
Yeah.
And it becoming a much bigger thing. So there's a book called The Bikeriders. This is what it portrays. Kathy, who is Benny's wife, takes a very prominent role in the whole thing as we kind of go through the memories and what's happened through what she discusses with Danny.
Yes.
Right. And we learn more about the gang. We have a kind of a cold open a little bit. I don't know if I'd call it cold open. Maybe. Anyways. And it just gets into, hey, this is how it was formed. And we go through Chicago life, essentially, with this bike riding ragtag crew.
Yeah, that's essentially what the movie is. I'm going to level with you right now, Mac.
Okay.
It's been a minute since I've seen this movie.
Deal.
And I still remember like an okay amount of it.
Okay.
You might have to help fill in some of the gaps for me as far as certain events and sequences in this movie. Absolutely. And like how it's laid out. And certainly like remembering the structure of it and the sort of like kind of narration point of view, disjointed way of the storytelling. It's not going to help me in any way, shape, or form. So can you remind me what the cold open was, if you remember?
Yeah, Benny's at the bar, and we go in there, and we get to see Benny sitting there, and he's got his Vandals jacket on, and some of the regulars are kind of harassing him, saying, "Hey, man, you can't wear your colors in here." And there isn't really. It led off with saying from 1965 or 66 to 73. Danny, this was photojournal entry or book that made the Bikeriders, and this is what this is based on. So we get Benny, and he gets into a fight.
You're gonna have to fucking kill me to take this jacket off.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, man, Joe Cool. Let's see what he's got. And then he slashes one of the guys with a knife, and then the other guy with a shovel is coming after him, and you kind of tell it's like, hey, my name's Benny. And you're probably wondering how I got into this situation.
It's literally the Goodfellas moment of like the freeze frame.
Yeah.
Like right before the big shit hits, and then
it cuts back into time.
Yes.
And that now we're gonna go through, and we're gonna lead up with Kathy, who's gonna kind of give us the detail on how she met Benny, how the gang got started. How really Benny pursued her, and then how the gang was formed, and we go through some of the time with them. It was a very I thought it was a very wholesome look at a bike gang.
Yeah, I mean, you go into a movie like this, and you sort of, I mean, especially if you like watch the trailers and like all the promo shit for it. At least for me, anyway, the first thing that came to mind was, this looks like it's going to be Goodfellas, but with bikers.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I had the exact same thought.
And obviously, there are some similarities. Be it the narration and the sort of like overarching story taking place over like a decade, and the sort of like crime element of it, Benny's relationship with Johnny in a way. To some extent, but like that's as far as it goes. Like it doesn't really line up that well with being compared to Goodfellas. It's very much its own thing, obviously.
Yeah.
And so
the gang getting started, I think the first half of Goodfellas with the gang getting started would be this whole movie. Yeah. And then like what we don't get to see is how the outlaws progress.
Yeah, how like the criminal element sort of seeps in. Because like this movie is not really at all concerned, at least up until a certain point, with showing like the criminal aspects of
There's
the
hardly
biker gang.
Any. They didn't, from my understanding, they weren't peddling anything. They weren't logistically moving things, It wasn't until towards the end there of the film that they started talking about some of the new guys coming in and a little bit of where the gang was going. This was, so I know a couple biker guys, and
I work with one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain stigma attached around, that gangs or bikers in general, or however you want to view it. There's kind of like you think about some of the more of the vices of life in the underbelly of cities, and these guys kind of diving into that. But this movie doesn't really approach it that way. It's more so like this is how we got started. This is how we were like a tight knit family. And then a lot of the shenanigans that happen or occur, while they are violent, they're not necessarily like
malicious or
irrehensible.
Yeah, like it's something to say that you could go into this movie totally expecting it to be like a Sons of Anarchy type of thing.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
This is going to be nothing but like bikes and guns and like people betraying each other and killing each other left and right. And it's a lot more meditative than I think a lot of people's expectations were. And I do kind of like how it's not really concerned with that sort of stuff, and that stuff, when it is introduced, does have kind of that weight to it of like, oh shit, it's kind of sad seeing this biker group get corrupted in a way.
A little bit, yeah.
To sort of like represent this sort of stigma that a lot of people have of biker gangs anyway.
Yeah.
Of like the drugs and the crime and the, hedonism and all that shit. I thought that part was like one of the strongest aspects of the movie.
Yes.
That is to say, I did kind of struggle with this a bit in terms of character relationships and being able to really attach myself to what was going on. Not necessarily that I have to attach myself to any sort of characters, but the fact that the characters are very simply written and simply represented, that, I don't know, to me it wasn't as in-depth as I would have liked it to have been, with Benny's relationship to Johnny and Kathy's relationship to Benny and like all these different things with like the characters going on. And like, you get like a few scenes of camaraderie, obviously. But then there's like, when it comes to like the scenes where like, oh, these characters are interacting, it feels very base level. They're hitting their motives without any interior, feelings or actions or any sort of interior motives coming out. Mm-hmm. So, like one of the big ones was Johnny grabbing Benny, and Johnny wants Benny to take over the gang, to take over the club.
Yeah.
And that feels like it should be a very impactful moment. And we'll get into Austin Butler. I mean, all the guys, I don't know where to rate them on the acting. So, yes. Nothing really came about of like feeling like, oh, this is really big, or man, they really care. Like a lot of it is, dialogue that Kathy's. It was just a weird. I say disjointed because Kathy's running the whole narration.
Well, I think there's like a level of detachment.
Yeah,
there. Like because we're getting the story fed to us through Kathy's voice, quite literally. It's almost like we're taking a step away from the relationships that are sort of trying to be established.
Yes.
But then at the same time, we're always constantly cutting back to what she's saying and like, her perspective of it. So it's like, if their goal was to have that detachment because it's her point of view, then I think it landed. But I don't know if that's necessarily enjoyable for me to watch.
I don't think that was the goal. I think that I really do think they had a hard time fitting this story into a cinematic story.
Yes.
Like, I really think, like, the ending, it sucked. Like, I was like, this thing felt rushed. I feel like they had no idea how to get there. I'm sure this is like true events.
Well, there's so many points in this movie where I just said to myself, like, what are we accomplishing here?
Right.
What are we trying to establish?
So it's funny that you say that, because at the very beginning, that was how I was looking at it. And then I went into, all right, I'm going to take this as like the Sandlot. Group of guys getting together, forming a community, and we just get to hang out with them, or a little bit of like everybody wants some. Like there's not going to be a whole lot of like character arcs, or we're going to have a whole lot of
you're not going to have like
hero's
heavy
journey
conflict or like a villain to face.
Some of those things popping up. Like we're just going to be going through the life with these guys and seeing how the gang was started. So like when it got to that point, it helped me out a little bit. But it still doesn't help out that you're getting to a climax with no climax in sight.
Well, that and like, if it is sort of like a Sandlot or like Everybody Wants Some type thing where like, the appeal of it and the draw of it is being with these characters, I would have liked there to have been a little more dimension to those characters in order for me to care about them.
Yeah.
Because, I don't think the acting in this is really bad or anything. It's just that, Austin Butler, the way he plays the character and the way the character's written, it's so, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but there's
one-dimensional. He's Joe Cool. He's literally fucking Joe Cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to look at you steely-eyed. I'm going to hit you with a one-liner because I don't give a fuck. I will fuck you up, and I don't care about dying.
Right.
See ya.
And then by the time it gets around to it, because, like, the whole movie makes it a point that, like, oh, Benny doesn't cry. He's, like, lost this person. He's hurt himself this way. He's crashed. I've never seen him cry once. And then this, and it cuts to the ending, and he's crying over Johnny dying.
Yeah,
and it's like we're supposed to resonate with this moment because it's like, oh, a big deal that he's showing emotion for the first time. But at that point, it almost kind of feels like a gimmick. Like,
100%. Like it was kind of like laid out. Like as soon as I've never seen Benny cry before. It's like, all right, what's gonna get him to cry? Is it gonna be leaving the gang, Johnny dying, friend die? Like something's gonna happen. We're gonna see him cry. And it's not even like it's not. The problem is because they don't develop any of that relationship. You don't really feel that those two are connected in any way.
No.
Benny just seems like he's the coolest dude there. And the only dialogue that really helped us out was Johnny always wanted to be like Benny. That was it. That was literally it. To get those guys connected to say, hey, they're best friends because this guy doesn't care and he wants to not care.
I'm going to try to list all the major interactions between Benny and Johnny.
Okay.
In this movie. So first major one is when Benny jumps into the fight.
Yep.
And, Johnny's trying to talk the other guys down, but Benny just sees it from a distance and just starts swinging. And, Johnny could understandably be very pissed at Benny, but then he's like, hey, why'd you start the fight? I saw you squaring off with them guys. I had to do something. Yeah, you and me, kid.
Yep.
You and me. So it's like, okay, so there's like
a connection there in a way, or at the very least, Johnny appreciates Benny on a level of, I know this guy will do anything for me and for the group. As sort of like, not necessarily muscle, but like if I want to get my hands dirty, I send Benny to do it.
I would say it's more of the loyalty aspect of,
yes,
like you are here to defend us,
yes,
no matter what. Like you will risk your life, and whether it's you'll die doing it.
And then the next major one is after Benny gets hurt.
Yep.
Johnny pulls him aside and says, I think I want you to lead the club after I go.
No, they went to the hospital room and they had like a little bit of, like, hey, you coming down to the thing?
They had a little bit, but that was basically just Johnny asking Benny, like, hey, you gonna come down? We're gonna get a gathering.
If you're like looking at it like just one-on-one, those guys talking, because I don't really. All right, yeah, keep going, because I don't think there's a whole lot.
Yeah, I'm trying to just include like the major character shift moments.
Yeah, the fire when he asked Benny to take over the club.
Yes.
Yep.
The third one is, I think it's when Johnny tells him that they have to go take care of Roach. And then they go take care of Roach, air quotes. They shoot him in the leg. Benny's like, hey, what the hell was that? Is this what we do? And Johnny's like, if you don't like it, you can leave. And then, Benny fucks off and you never see him again until like the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yep.
That's literally the most major interactions those two characters get. And like a lot of the narrative crux of this is supposed to hinge on their relationship.
Yes.
And you really don't get that much of it.
No, it's awful. I mean, it's been, I don't know if Austin Butler had like scheduling conflicts or something, because they're like, I gotta go film Dune now. He just rides off in the fucking desert. He took off. There's a couple times like when he finally leaves and she's like, and then I never saw him again. He's just gone. I haven't seen him for 2 years. That guy. And I'm like, wait, hold on. This guy is everything we've marketed and built up for. He should be the protagonist of the film, or at least the person that's got the most chance of growth or to overcome anything. He's just gone now.
Right.
And then that's when it just went downhill.
Yeah.
You
market this film on him being the sort of like Leo DiCaprio type, and that like he's going to be the draw, he's going to be the guy you're with,
Seriously, like if you're looking at like any sort of marketing campaign out there was Austin Butler in the Bikeriders. And I'm like, oh, we got a young up and coming guy. He's going to get into this gang. He's going to get to a point where it was all about bike riding and not pushing drugs. Johnny gets into the drug, now it's these two guys going against each other. And nope, he's going to take off, and then we're going to kind of get in it. Then the gang fell apart, and then we get the whole gang falls apart.
Well, I could see maybe someone arguing the point of view of like, oh, it's not even supposed to be his story. It's supposed to be Jodie Comer's story. But it feels more like she's a sort of chief to a Randall P. McMurphy thing going on, where like, yeah, the story's technically told through her, but, it doesn't feel like she's the main draw or focus of what they're trying to accomplish.
I think what they were attempting, and this is where I fall on it with, because I do have points where I get like really fired up about this thing, but I think the story was the Vandals. Like it wasn't one person. It was like we have
the history of this biker gang, the rise and fall.
Yeah, and the problem that I have with it that we've discussed is that it hinges on relationships within this community that never get built out, and they did a really bad job, I think, because they had to get a draw in. So you throw Austin Butler on the cover. Guess what? He's the lead. Nope. Guess what? Tom Hardy's in it. So what? It's like, we tricked you guys. It's all about the Bikeriders. And it's like, I wish they would have just been more transparent about that going into it, so it wouldn't be so confusing, because the whole thing felt so disjointed with like, she's going to go into a flashback about a conversation Benny had with Johnny, into Johnny telling Roach, hey, you got to do this. It's like, is this third-hand stories? Where are we going? How does this all funnel in together?
Right. Well, it's like even Austin Butler's relationship with Jodie Comer isn't even that
great.
In depth in any way.
No, I mean,
like the most you ever get in like any form of like, oh, I believe these two as a couple is when they're sitting together on the bed watching TV and laughing, and that's it.
Honestly, it's dude. I had the
very
same
detached that way
fucking thought, and and there are that community, because a couple guys that I know, I was like, have you guys seen this? And they hadn't. So, I was like, I really want to see their thoughts on it. And
right. And there's not even that many motorcycle movies out there to begin with.
Well, and
Mad Max and Akira, maybe.
The individuals in those groups. That might be a future recommendation.
I should have paired it with this.
Yeah, that would have been great. That's actually, I think, like a guilty pleasure of Sam's. Either that,
you
or
only get one shot.
Dude, he'll make a fucking argument to tell you why it's good.
I liked that movie when I was a teenager. Full disclosure.
Yeah, don't bash it.
Yeah.
Though the relationships that they have, that is actually kind of genuine. Though the detached, we're surface level. We know each other for pretty much this.
Sure.
I never understood what he was getting out of the relationship with her, and I could see what she saw in him, but the other way around, I was like, this is so odd to me.
Is it bad that I thought he was more like funny than cool? Like in a way where like I think he's kind of being a doofus. Because
you think that with all these movies now.
Well, so here's my argument.
Okay.
The first time you ever really see him talk to a character is he leans up on the table looking at her and goes, "I'm Benny." And he's got a fucking tattoo of his own name on his arm, which already is like kind of comedic. And then one of the next scenes you see him in is it after or before he like waits outside of her house and then her husband...
No, that's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
That's all literally he leans over and then he slides up there on the table. Want to get out of here? No, I'm not going to hang out with you tonight. All right, I'll see you a different time. And he like gets up and walks away, and then they're like hooting and hollering after her. So she gets on the bike and they ride around. It's the most freedom she's ever felt. And then the husband's like waiting for him or for her on the front step.
Yeah.
And then he waits out there for the 4 days, like fucking, say anything or whatever it is. John Cusack reference.
With the radio.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a good
I
one.
get it a little bit.
We'll cut that in post.
We'll enhance it in post.
Yeah, that's our intro.
Exactly. This discussion is going to be like the movie. It's just going to be all over the map.
Yeah. We need our own little photojournalist here.
We should. Otherwise known as a producer.
Yeah.
Someone to keep us on track.
Oh, that'll never happen.
Well, that's supposed to be me, but sometimes it just goes off the rails.
Yeah, that's why it got to 2 hours and stayed there.
Yeah. But yeah, no, he's waiting outside of the house.
Yep.
And then the beta male cuck husband gets pissed off and leaves. And then he goes on like a police chase.
Yep.
And he's like going down the road. He's going, woo, and then
never got that.
His bike runs out of gas.
Yeah.
And okay, I guess he's just dumb. So then he gets picked up by the cops, and then that really doesn't lead to much of anything. Well, it doesn't really affect him too much.
You gotta think. I mean, the gas thing, like I was like, all right, how? But honestly, when you get that, you're not paying attention to everything. If you got that much adrenaline pumping through you, I'll give him a pass.
Yeah, sure, pass on that.
Yeah,
but like I don't know, he kind of gives me like sort of himbo doofus energy more than he does like kind of cool and suave energy.
The only reason why I disagree is because of the fights and the way that he conducted himself. Like, there is something to say when those two guys pop up. You could be a doofus, but doofuses normally are cowards too, to some extent, or totally brazen to the extent that they don't realize any danger. But they're mostly chest puffed out, big bird puff your chest. He's just sitting there. He's like, I really don't give a fuck. And I not to say I bought into the whole thing, because I was like, this is so wasted. I don't know why the fuck we marketed this off Austin Butler. He's got 20 lines in this whole thing, and all he does is look at you and go like with his squint eyes,
Benny.
And give you like, you want to get out of here? Like, come on.
Takes 20 seconds to look at each man before he says, "You're gonna have to kill me to get this jack."
Yeah, like it was just kind of ridiculous. I don't know.
So I feel like the main characters, and we'll get to the performances here soon, but the main characters, to me, being as sort of like one-dimensional and bland as they are, it's almost like they make the side characters better, just inherently.
See, that's what I think they were all, Yeah, to some extent.
So I'll tell you the scenes that I enjoyed the most. The scenes I enjoyed the most is when they're all hanging out together.
Yeah.
Like when the whole entire group is like just doing their thing and they have like a chit chat, shooting the shit or whatever. Michael Shannon's drunk as fuck.
Zipco.
Boyd Holbrook is just fucking sitting there. Norman Reedus has his gummy ass teeth.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I don't know, I have fun with those scenes.
That's why I say it's wholesome.
Well, and it's like the most fun the characters are having too.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're all together. It's the gang. The community's here.
Those are the scenes I would argue are more along the lines of like everybody wants some type of thing.
And that's why I kind of wish that Johnny had a little bit more depth where you could see some of like, he was this hard steel guy, blah, blah, blah. But like underneath it all, he was really happy he got these guys together. And then you just show him like watching everyone like doing like their jackassery and him just like hit you with a quick smile. Like, yeah, I did do all this. He never seemed passionate about what he was doing.
Yeah.
And that really drove me nuts.
Well, I think, they kind of even name drop it in the movie, but it almost felt like he was trying to do like the Marlon Brando thing of like, I'm playing it cool always to sort of put up a front.
Yeah. That's why he liked Benny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Benny had the Brando effect. He just couldn't lead the guys where Johnny could lead the guys. He just wasn't Brando.
And, there's not that much in the way of reasoning for him making the club. He just kind of wanted to do it because it seemed like he was bored. He's literally just going, I kind of want to start a bicycle club. And then the other guy's like, why would you want to start a club?
That's all we do here is talk. Why don't we just get a bunch of guys together and talk?
Yeah, but we race them here. Why would you start a club without racing? Which, I do kind of like that line of thinking back then is like an in-depth reasoning of like, this is kind of how people probably thought back then.
We have
like,
social.
Why would you start a club if you can't race the bikes?
They literally they had to get a phone into the club and they made the biggest deal about if you use the phone. Like, think about that. Like, we have this. I could send out 4 text messages now.
Right.
You could talk to a friend in Vietnam if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like, but back then, it's how are you going to find like-minded guys?
Yeah.
And a lot of them probably had a resentment of life or where they were at or just kind of how people viewed them and, like-minded characters. And Johnny probably was in the same boat. And I liked it. I just laughed because that always kills me. Like, if you did it now, I'd be like, oh, go fuck yourself. But like back in the 60s or 70s where the guys like...
Yeah, where like half the men are bored or like, just don't have much to do.
We talk about motorcycles. We like motorcycles. We could build motorcycles. Let's just
hang out.
Yeah, and get a community together.
Around motorcycles.
Yeah, and that was like, I laughed when he was like giving the guy the logic and I was like, I'm digging that because that's how
I like it. It feels very organic that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have this sort of like romanticized origin story of like,
right.
Well, you see, I wanted to start this club because I felt like, the poor weren't being represented and we really have to rise up and stick it to the man. It's like, no, they were just fucking bored.
Yeah. They were like, dude, we do this on Sundays. We could literally do this every day.
Right. Why not?
Yeah.
So let's get into the performances.
Okay.
I know earlier I said that I wouldn't say any of the acting is particularly bad. I will say it is quite the choice to have Jodie Comer sound like she's from Fargo the whole time.
Yes and no. It's a weird thing because we are from the mid. So, speaking of 8 Mile, you listen to Eminem talking, and you're like, hey, he's from Michigan.
Another through line. Both these movies set in the Midwest.
Yeah, I know. That's what yes. And yeah, both. We got 2 of them now. But I'm like listening to him talk. I was like, I feel like that's kind of how I talk. Like that seems more Michigan than,
Your voice is just a special case of I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Agreed. Yeah, that's what makes me unique.
Yeah.
But with her,
that's what makes you unique. Yes, just that one thing.
I'll take it. If there's any legacy I carry, it's gonna be I had a unique voice. One for the radio.
Your accent.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jodie Comer.
Yeah, I think I don't have that big of an issue with it because it's a little maybe outlandish, but to some extent, back in the 60s, it's the same. You're not hearing dialects from other places like we do now.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. Yeah, I don't know. To me,
that wasn't the most distracting one. I'll tell you that. I got past that after like 30 minutes.
That one to me, I think, was the most distracting, just because there would be scenes where. I say scenes, it's maybe one scene where she's arguing with Austin Butler and she's trying to yell or like, speak very loudly at him with the accent. And then sometimes it just kind of like doesn't quite land.
There's a
for
twang
me.
For you, or you're like, man, that's so offbeat and you're forcing it so hard.
Yeah. Like to me, that was just like the biggest standout as far as like just immersion from performance.
Mine was the one that we'll probably talk about next.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
WWTHD.
Dude.
Apparently talk funny.
Once again, I accepted it. I said, I'm not going to let it bug me. This is going to be going on the whole film. He sounded like a New York gangster.
And I think that's probably what he was going for, right? Except like a Chicago version of it. Because, they're supposed to be from Chicago.
Yeah, but he got the New York version right.
I guess.
Hey, here's an easy one. Johnny came from New York. We're talking about biopics and journal entries. There you go.
Well, it's funny because I went into this movie fully expecting Tom Hardy to be the most distracting part of it for me.
Yes,
and
I did
while
too.
I wouldn't say that his acting and his the way he's doing the accent isn't 100% not goofy, I was surprised at how used to it I was able to get after a certain point. You know, obviously there's certain lines from the trailer that I've seen over and over again where he says, "Bring it down," where like, I get like a little bit of a chuckle because I myself have memed it to a point. But the rest of the film, I don't know. There's just something about, I think, Tom Hardy's acting ability where I'm like, I could maybe believe this is like a real person. Maybe.
I don't think I would have to say, so some of the research I did, Danny Lyons had all these tapes, and he would actually, the actors and actresses would listen to the people talking. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the accents, they said that he thought they nailed it pretty well with what they got from the tape. So like after I read that, because Jodie Comer, I was like, whatever, like I'm fine with it. So like I was like, okay, she had to have heard that and like did her best. This is, maybe that chick was from Minnesota.
Right. She watched Fargo 5 times before filming.
Yeah. Well, I can't pick on her.
Last time I used that joke, I promise.
Picking on Tom Hardy, because Tom Hardy, I'm like, don't know what he's going for. But I'm thinking like, all right, he listened to those tapes. This guy had to have talked like this to some extent, because he's a fish out of water. Like he not is, but Chicago.
It kind of works a little bit that he's not like the others in the way that he speaks, because he's supposed to stand out in a way.
Right.
But then again, you have Tom Hardy. He's already like an imposing figure on screen. He just stands out anyway.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I mean, if that, I'm going, my gut tells me this is kind of what the guy sounded like, but I still can't. Hey, it's Midwest. It's Chicago. We're in the Midwest. Jodie Comer comes out. Oh, don't you know, right? And then burn it down. Yeah. Like, where the fuck? But like,
hey, what you doing with these wise guys here?
Yeah. I'm like,
hey, you want to buy a newspaper? Hey, take you. Hey, the Zeppelin races in here.
Like, it's so cognate. I'm like, but I'm assuming that
it stands out. Yes.
Yes. And so
someone I was surprised wasn't using a funny, silly voice, Austin Butler, because normally he's known for doing funny, silly voices in his movies.
Did he have an accent at all?
I think he just spoke how he normally does for once in one of his movies. Because, in Dune, he's doing the whole, like, trying to mimic Stellan Skarsgård type of thing.
Yeah.
Would you like some meat, my darling?
Yeah,
and then
it's so bizarre.
Obviously, there's the classic, like, homo, that's my hound dog type of thing. But no, for this movie, he just kind of sounds like himself. And I will say, pretty good voice. Pretty good natural voice he has.
Dude, he
sounds pretty suave.
He might have a Brad Pitt trajectory, or name another good-looking guy that just can't do anything besides, look squinty-eyed at the camera.
Yeah.
Like that only lasts for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see much of any acting chops out of him besides one-dimensional.
No. If you want like a performance from Austin Butler, watch Dune Part 2.
Yes. And that one, you get a little bit more out of him, even though it's kind of bizarro, but it sticks out.
And I know that, I'm a little bit more in favor of Elvis. You're, of the opinion that it belongs in the garbage, but
that movie sucked.
I think he is good in that movie. I think his performance in that movie is genuinely good.
He didn't distract me. I'll say he didn't distract me.
He's not the one that distracts you.
He was about the most believable that you could probably be for that movie, but that movie sucks, so it doesn't help his resume.
I'm the colonel. I'm the snowman.
don't you? Oh, yeah, I can't even do it.
Well, some would say I'm the villain of this here story.
Yeah, he sounds like the dude in Captain Underpants.
Yeah, Michael Shannon, great. I
Loved him.
Love when he's on screen.
He worked with
Also, another commonality between these two movies. Michael Shannon.
Yeah, I know, dude. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I got fucking scared when he showed up in 8 Mile.
I did, and I was like, Shannon. I was like, oh, he's playing a dirtbag.
Scared in a good way, like a jump scare in a movie.
Oh, yeah.
I did the Leo point at the screen
yeah.
type of thing.
Oh, I did this both times.
Yeah.
I saw him. I was like, let's go. Yeah, he worked with a director. Name's eluding me.
Jeff Nichols.
This is their 7th film together, so they've actually worked on quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, they must love each other. So there's Take Shelter.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen that?
I have not. The only other one I think I've seen from him is Midnight Special.
Yeah, it's all right.
I like Midnight Special. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I'd have to rewatch it.
There's nothing memorable. It's
the most memorable part of it is Michael Shannon and Jaden Lieberher or whatever. The kid.
Yeah, might be autistic.
Going back to our conversation earlier today that we did not record.
Yeah.
And I won't reference further.
Nope, don't have to. Yeah, so anyways, there was a couple things that they had agreed on to do, and then Shannon kind of did his own thing, and because they've worked together so much, Jeff Nichols pretty much gives him kind of creative liberty. The most interesting one is his monologue that he gave him, because I think Shannon has 2 monologues. The second one when he's talking about how he got rejected by the army.
Yeah.
And Shannon was asking Nichols, he's like, is this supposed to be funny? Do you think this is funny? And Nichols is like, yeah, that's really funny. He's like, I don't think it's funny. And Nichols is like, okay, like, just read the fucking lines, you know? And so he gets up there, and then he hits you with like he gets into the point where at the very, they didn't accept me. They didn't accept me. And then like the whole cast, because I don't know how many shoots they do, but like that hit him kind of like when everyone has that like reaction where it gets a little somber, where it's a tone change.
The story gets a little too real and sad. Yeah,
and he's building up to the gang, and he's like, that's how when he got done, he told Nichols, he goes, that's how I think Sipko was talking about. You know, it gets more of it hurt him because he's trying to represent our country, and the country turned their back on him.
Yeah.
You know.
Sort of goes in line with like why they formed the biker gang in the first place.
Yeah, there's one theme in this thing, and most of the stories kind of fall back into that theme.
Yeah.
You know.
Last one I kind of really want to touch on is Norman Reedus.
Okay.
Because I used to watch a lot of Walking Dead.
Yeah, same here.
How far did you get? I feel like we've talked about this, but I always forget.
I got to Negan a season or 2 after Negan.
So like 7 or 8 around there.
Sure.
That's about where I would say I stopped watching.
Yeah.
But obviously very known for Walking Dead, was one of those guys that came in as like a side character who they were probably going to kill off originally, but then people started really liking him. He became like the fan favorite. So then they were like, I guess we got to keep him around.
I got to see what I know him from.
Boondock Saints.
Yes.
He's in that.
That had to have been it.
Yeah. I don't think he's in that many movies. The only other major thing I can think of that he's in is that Death Stranding video game from Hideo Kojima.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, I'm not really too familiar with like him as an actor, but I did like him a lot on Walking Dead, and I think he's a fun addition to this movie that makes sense because Norman Reedus in real life likes to ride motorcycles.
Yeah, that makes sense because he did in The Walking Dead.
And he has, I think he either had or has a motorcycle reality show on AMC where like he just rides around on a motorcycle going from town to town talking to motorcycle people about motorcycles.
That's what happens when you're one of the stars of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, you can just kind of get a blank check for whatever you want to fucking
AMC.
Do. Hey, how about I get a show where I ride on a motorcycle and I talk to bikers? No, Norman, we can't do that. All right, well, I guess I'll just write off my character then. Hold on. You said 4 seasons of that show?
we can pencil you in for 4. For 4. Unless the ratings hit. Sure, for 4.
Yeah. But yeah, he makes sense in the movie.
He was fun. I really liked when Funny Sonny showed up, and then
I like his moment where he tells Boyd Holbrook, like,
Cal.
Yeah. I was sent to get his ass.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of like you guys.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, when I talk about wholesomeness, like, this movie is like, there's some bad elements that pop up, and then they like see the gang, and they're like, yeah, all right, I'll hang out with you guys. You seem like you're fun.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until that house party at the end where the tone really shifted.
That scene where they're trying to carry Jodie Comer up the stairs is like genuinely stomach churning.
Oh, dude, I'm like, I don't know where this film's going. Yeah. I don't know if we're getting into drugs now, and I feel like I think that this thing got chopped up by Regency, because did you read any of the production stuff?
I mean, whatever fucking Wikipedia had, which is not a whole lot, but mostly just like about the origins of how it's based on the real life writings of Danny Lyon, but not much past that.
There was some. The reason this was supposed to come out in 2023, like you'll remember 2023, probably last summer, there was a whole bunch of...
Yeah, it got delayed because of the writer's strike.
It got delayed because of that. Disney dropped it, and then Regency ended up buying it or picking it up. Mm. And I think whoever was one of the main producers wanted to sign on with Regency because of what they did with The Northman and how they made that movie profitable after some of the box office failures it had.
Yeah, The Northman made a profit after it had been on PVOD for a while.
Yeah, and they really liked what they did with that. So this thing got delayed. It had a couple of production, like... I want to say there was one before Disney. Disney picked it up, and then they were like, we're going PG. This is too much, you know? And it's funny because I was like, this is a very Disney feel for like something that I was imagining being Goodfellas-esque.
Right. We'll get into it more. I have a thought, but continue.
Yeah. So anyways, Regency picked it up. That's why it got delayed. I forgot how you're talking about.
This was supposed to be 2023, came out this year.
Yeah.
Production issues, sort of like the choppy editing and the content of
it. And so that scene and some of the stuff, the ending of it, I feel like that was because whoever came in, because that happens at about an hour 30, hour 35, and this movie's only an hour 56 long. Like, there's only 20 more minutes after that that occur, and I was like,
yeah,
I bet you with some of the production stuff that went on, they were like, we're taking out 40 minutes or 30 minutes, because I really wish there would have been a little bit more of ending or some this is what happened with the guys, you know?
Yeah,
not to like what we got, but a little bit more of like the charter changed, you know, and then we get to see a little bit more of that, because there is a kid villain that really is a weird, doesn't make sense thing, but we have to have him in here because we need to.
It doesn't feel like he makes the impact he's supposed to.
No,
with the ending that we're given.
Yes, and so going back to that scene, that's where I think some of the production failures had this movie feel disjointed.
Yeah, I do like the scene where he shows up and he's like, hey, we made our own, we customized our bikes ourselves, and you know,
we chopped our own bikes. Come check our bikes out.
And so Tom Hardy has that dialogue with him where he goes like, all right, yeah, you can join, but your friends, they gotta stay back. And he's like, okay. And he's like, what kind of piece of shit are you? You gonna leave your friends behind? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yeah,
I did enjoy that scene.
Yeah, it was there are some good things in here.
There's some like good moments sprinkled in this very narratively chopped up film.
The wholesomeness to me is what really got me.
Yeah.
I really did appreciate, and I think I'm a sucker for things like that, especially when it's supposed to be kind of like a gritty, dirty, you know, we're looking at like guys peddling heroin across state lines, and none of it pops up. It's just the guys hanging out.
So you had mentioned earlier, and this is a point I wanted to get back to, about how you said that this movie kind of feels like it was a Disney movie at one point. And I agree with you there, because
no, it really was. Like, Disney had...
I was kind of surprised this movie is as visually boring as it is. Like, I don't know. To me, there's not really much going on in the way of this movie having like a style or like any sort of unique cinematography going on. I don't know. It just doesn't feel that engaging on a filmmaking level.
To some extent, I do agree. The cinematography is lacking, especially if you could have like the sweeping shots of the bike riders, you know, or really get on like one of the bikes with the guys and like do that like look over with the camera, and the guy like hits you with like the hang loose sign or the middle finger, you know, and like you can feel the air going through the. Yeah, they missed on that. I think they focused a little bit more on the sound editing.
Yeah, for sure.
And what I read on the location was they were filming out of this area in Cincinnati, this really impoverished area in Cincinnati that had the feel to where they were at, and some of the production like pictures of next to the building actually matched up or were kind of close to some of the pictures that Danny Lyons took.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it was supposed to feel kind of like you're not in a very comfortable area. You know, like everything's supposed to be, they don't make a lot of money. These guys use their hands. They hate college kids.
Yeah.
You know, they're drunks. We ride bikes for a living. We're part of a club. You know, like it's not.
It doesn't feel like you really see any other type of person in this movie besides someone involved in the biker gang or like maybe like a couple passerbys here or there.
But that's what I think was the idea. I wish they would have alluded more towards this is focused on the book and this time period of 8 years. And like, you know, I've never seen Easy Rider, but I feel like that's kind of like what they were going for is, hey, we're going to be with these guys. It's, you know, a free world. You know, we're hanging out with them and
fuck the free world.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. Foreshadowing.
Yeah. So I think it was just a mismarketing campaign. So we were anticipating a lot more drama and conflict. And it really is just a story about people hanging out, part of a bike gang.
Where, this almost feels like a sort of narrative documentary, sort of almost biopic-y type of thing.
Yeah, and I that's why I really have a problem with how they marketed it. And I think they struggled with it, with probably some of the chops I have with the production houses switching 3 different times. Pushing it back, and you know we're getting to a point now where we really don't have a great story, and we can't go with, hey, you're hanging out with the bike gang.
Right. So what do? Let's edit this to where like it's all the scenes of like the action, fucking Austin Butler's punching someone, Tom Hardy's getting his switchblade out.
Burn it down.
Burn it down. Yeah.
Burn it down. Like you think the whole time they're going to be heavies, extorting people.
Right. You think the whole time there's going to be some fucking Sons of Anarchy shit
Hell's
happening.
Angels going on. Yeah.
You know, which I'm not entirely like sad that we didn't get that, but you know, if it is like a focus on something else, I would like that focus to be a little more focused, if that makes any modicum of sense.
Kind of. I mean, I know what it's a little bit of, well, that's what I'm saying, though. I think we're kind of on the same page with this. Thing's mismarketed. We both had different intentions going in, and what they gave us was not what we were promised. You know, and I think that's a little bit lied to, but they had to get people into seats. And once you get into it and you realize, oh, shit, there's really no conflict going on.
Yeah.
It gets into what are you going to do now, because we still have somewhat of a story going on here that there's got to be a climax of something. And the club's still going on. So, you know, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Let's thrust Johnny onto the scene and we'll make sure Benny was emotionally impacted. And I think that's probably why they fucking didn't have any character relationship in this thing, because the guy making it was like, this isn't what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's about all I have to say about the Bikeriders. As far as I can pull out of my subconscious. I don't know about you. Was there anything else you maybe... Oh, there is one thing.
Okay.
So I did go and see this with a buddy of mine who is an avid motorcycle enthusiast.
Okay.
And just being able to watch this movie, he was able to tell me like, oh yeah, it seemed like they really did their homework on like the time period of like what kind of bikes they were riding, the region centric period of like, you know, what type of bikes they'd be on. It seemed like they really did their homework with getting the bikes as accurate as they possibly could, and like tailoring it to like, you know, the different gangs and like, you know, how they view like people who buy them like wholesale and don't do any customization versus like, you know, those who like entirely make new bikes out of old parts, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he appreciated it from that point of view, just on a base level. So I will shout that out, because if he's saying they did their homework, then I'm going to believe him.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, some of the guys that I talked to about it, I mean, the inception of the Vandals in this thing, the portraying the Outlaws and how they had chapters everywhere and started that up. I mean, it's still prevalent to the day. So I really like that we got to see kind of the inception of a Midwest bike gang, because like Hell's Angels and I believe the Mongrels, they'd already been established. So I mean, it was kind of fun seeing like this like little tight knit community expand, taking over the Midwest essentially. I mean, these things still go on, and some of the brawling and stuff and representing yourself. I mean, that's still very true. It's one of the things where you're always kind of like, I feel like it's a little bit cinematic, but no, it still holds true. So my biggest thing, just to say it because I have to get it off my chest. Why did Benny or Johnny have to take a shotgun to that door?
For dramatic effect.
Did that make any sense whatsoever?
To scare the audience, Mac.
Okay, that's all I was wondering about.
Scare the people in the... Yeah, I wondered the same fucking thing. Like, why did you need 2 guns for this? It seemed like... Okay, I was kind of confused by that scene.
I was too. Let's get into it real quick, because we're both like in the what the fuck happened.
Yeah, so did Roach... Are we supposed to believe that Roach knew they were coming? If so, then why did he have to break the door down?
Yes,
and then,
thank you. Yes.
Why did he have to shoot him in the leg to... Was he shooting him in the leg to give him an excuse to not be in the biker gang anymore? Or did he shoot him in the leg as a warning to stay away from the biker gang or else they're going to kill him? Yes. I don't understand what that scene was intending.
None of it made sense. And then when Benny goes, is this what we're turning into?
And then when Benny gets pissed off about it, it's like... Are you pissed off because you don't understand it, or are you pissed off because you don't agree with it?
No, he made it very clear that the way they were going, he was not accepting. And I'm like,
sure, maybe
he's as confused as I am. And it's like, listen, I don't know your antics anymore. I'm out. Because he walked in and fucking blasted, and I was like, I'm just thinking, I was like, if this guy's in here and he doesn't kill him, I'm going to be so mad. Because all he had to do was open that door.
Yeah.
Like, literally, no. I mean, so this was my take on it, okay?
Yes.
And this is where I was trying to figure out where does it make sense. He blasts the door, shoots Roach, and he told Roach to let it bleed out. I was thinking that he was trying to make it sound like Roach got murdered, right? So you've got the blood trail, whatever, there's no body, doors blasted open, okay? So he's protecting Roach. Under that logic, though, why the fuck is Benny like, this is the way we're going, man?
Yeah, why is he pissed off about this?
Exactly. So then you have to do your take on it, right? Where it's like, all right, is it because, we're led to believe that hey, you can't ride a bike anymore, your knee's all busted up. Benny should agree with that because he's helping Roach out.
Right.
Or is it this is what happens when you fuck with the gang, boom, good luck riding a bike now. And that's where I would be like, all right, Benny does understand that, but at the same token, there's no shotgun blast needed then. There's no reason to have that door get all fucked up.
Right. The way the scene is presented when he blasts the door with a shotgun, I fully expected Roach and his wife to be in bed under the covers, like not knowing what the fuck's going on, like scrambling, like, oh, wait, why is someone shooting around our house? But then, he's just kind of like sat upright on his bed.
He was waiting for him.
Like
he was sitting down. He was in a chair. He was literally dark room. They cleared out the house. There was nothing in the house besides him. And he was like, let's get it over with. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck did they agree to?
Like he's a child just waiting for his parents to wake up because he threw up in his bed, but he doesn't want to wake up his dad and bother him.
It was one of the more bizarre scenes in the whole thing. And then Benny takes off and then they're like, yeah, that's when the gang fell apart. And I'm like, what? How? Come on. There's got to be something better than that, right?
Yeah, it's absurd. It's very absurd.
Yes. So that bugged me. And then the ending of the kid that literally we've only had when they first showed the kid, he's stealing hubcaps. And I'm like, this kid's going to play a problem here. I'm hoping that we get some at the end, like some fists going or whatever. Nope, he goes in, kills Johnny, and then it's like, and then that kid took over. And then he actually helped the club out, actually make more money and expand. But he was a bad dude. And I'm like, this is just so fucking lazy.
Yeah, it feels very cobbled together. And then there was I was going to bring up, we didn't really talk about Mike Feist in this a whole lot. We can kind of quickly touch on him. I liked him. I liked his few moments of like a dry sense of humor. When Michael Shannon's going on about like these college boys and like, you know, how they don't get it and like, you know, people can't get their hands dirty, blah, 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 too busy being pussies going to college. And then he asks them like, so what are you doing this for anyway? He's like, for my photography class.
Yeah. He was all right to me. I mean, it was like, he just was like a filler. I mean, I feel like anyone could have, not anyone. He held a microphone. I mean, he had a couple scenes here and there, but
right.
He was like, whatever. I mean, a couple of the guys were, the one that irked me the most is the guy that is 54 that played Charles Manson in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Brucey.
Okay.
And he's like, my parents, they don't want me to be part of a gang. They don't like me riding a bike. And I don't think I could tell them that I do that. Because
Damon Harriman. Yeah, when he's going on about his parents,
like,
I'm
you're like looking at him right and you're going, aren't you in your 50s?
Yeah, like why are you talking like a 17-year-old boy who's not allowed to play his Xbox anymore?
I was
like,
doing the same thing. Like,
don't you have a mortgage?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, don't you have responsibilities?
Yeah. Why would your parents give a fuck about what you do?
You're old enough for your kid to have a kid.
You look like you have back problems, my guy.
Yeah, like, what are we talking about? And then the parents showed up, and I was like, why are they like, you killed my kid? And it's like, he's 54 in real life. Like, what do you... He's seen a healthy life, and he had friends.
You killed my young, supple boy.
Yeah. Like,
he had so much life left in him.
That's all I was thinking about. Then is Barbara or Barbie or whatever his wife was. I mean, she's like in her 30s. And I'm like, I don't know what they're going for with this guy's age. Yeah. Some of the things are just...
Head scratching.
A little bit, yeah.
Head scratching, interesting, movie with fun moments, but you know, it has a lot of hazy elements to it. Let's get into ratings.
Okay. Do I go last since I read it off, right?
Sure. So I can go first. Yeah, this is a strong 6 out of 10 for
nice.
me.
Okay.
You know, obviously there's things about this movie I enjoy. I enjoyed the performances for the most part. I think that baseline as a depiction of a biker group, sort of depicting the rise and fall in this sort of like almost detached way, I think can be interesting at points. But at the same time, I found myself getting checked out by this periodically. Mm-hmm. And it's just one that I would be comfortable not really seeing again. So yeah, 6 out of 10.
I gave this, we were talking about it at a 8 out of 10. I moved it down to a 7. Some of the flaws in it, I really can't get past, but I will say it is a strong 7 because of, and I will still say the wholesomeness of it all. A lot of the violence, it's not gratuitous. It's almost like warranted, but it feels like just buffoons being buffoons, you know?
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I read about was they had hired a stuntman to do the fighting sequences, and they didn't have any noticeable fighting methods that they practiced, so that's why it was just brawling.
Yeah, it's just very scrappy. Yeah, kind of thrown together.
A lot of the stuff like with the guys fighting is just bodies being hurled, fists being thrown, no punches really being landed. Like guys just like letting out pure aggression, and I liked a lot of what this was going for at the beginning with the gang and the guys being together and kind of seeing how Rough Riders coming up, you know, and just being, I mean, just at the inception of it all. So, yes. But the flaws, 7 out of 10.
All right. Speaking of 7, you know what comes after 7?
8, 9.
Hey, wow! I can't believe that 7 would do that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That is insane.
Peace for 9, but. Numbers, the next number in that sequence is 8, and of course we're going to discuss my recommendation of 8 Mile. You better lose yourself in the music the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow.
Whoa.
And
Mike Feist.
And this is a film directed by Curtis Hanson. His other works include
jack shit
now. Yeah, fucking garbage like LA Confidential.
Oh, he did that?
Yeah, he did do that. In Her
movie's
Shoes,
overrated.
Wonder Boys, The River Wild.
The Wonder Boys
Yes.
with Tom Hanks? No. Do That Thing You Do is that?
Michael Douglas?
No.
Is that who you're thinking of?
No. Nope.
Okay.
Nope, I'm not.
Never mind then.
Okay.
So we're talking about 8 Mile, directed by Curtis Hanson. Is a drama film starring Eminem as James Jimmy Smith Jr., otherwise known as B Rabbit, as his stage name, and sort of chronicles the going-ons of Jimmy as he's trying to be a sort of like rap artist, a musical artist, trying to enter the world of hip-hop in various different avenues. He's got different friends and people in his corner that are trying to get him to go about it in different ways.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily know what's best for him. He also struggles with being a white boy in a rap game that is mostly
predominantly African American.
Yes, and at the same time, he's also dealing with issues of living in a trailer park with his mom and is it his little sister?
Yes.
Who, they live together and they have a very contentious relationship. And the mom is with Michael Shannon, who is playing Greg in this film.
Greg Dole.
And it's just pretty much about him sort of like going about trying his best to be at the top of his game of being a rap artist, a hip-hop musical artist, so to speak. So, spoilers for 8 Mile. And one thing I didn't mention in my summation of this is that this is very clearly a sort of semi-autobiographical film.
Biopic.
Yeah, of...
maybe not a biopic. But yeah, it's like the...
Right. It's sort of like, it's lightly chronicling and mirroring Eminem's real upbringing.
True.
And how he like turned into a hip hop artist and like what that all led to, or what led up to that, I should say.
Yes.
And yeah, there's like obviously like some parallels going on. Obviously, there's some like creative liberties being taken, but at the same time, this is very much reflective of what he went through.
Yes.
So yeah, I suggested this movie mostly because, I say mostly because a lot of different reasons why. One, it's one that I had never seen before.
Right.
So it's one that I had always kind of had an interest in seeing, but knew I kind of wanted to talk about on the podcast. So it's been on my list forever. It's set in Detroit. Mm-hmm. So, kind of, I'm not going to dox us, but it's sort of around where we live relatively, in the same state of Michigan. And, there's a bit of a background there too. This was filmed in Detroit, so you get that real location authenticity. Yeah, I will apologize right now because I just got hit with a wave of being tired. I've been up since 4:30 this morning, so my apologies. And it is currently 10:11 p.m.
Ooh.
But this is also a film that's pretty ubiquitous in terms of like just people who are fans of film and also people who are fans of Eminem. This movie was widely successful. It's got a lot of reference power in terms of like other media. You see this being referenced in tons of other things. And I wanted to watch this and see if this sort of legacy held up as a movie in its own right. So I guess I'll just kind of pass the ball to you. What your experience with this film is, what your perception of this film is from the first time you watched it versus now, and kind of, how you feel about Eminem as a whole.
How I feel.
Like I said, my brain, I think, is melting actively.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm in the same. I've been running around with 5-year-olds for 7 hours today out in 90-degree heat. So
yeah, that'll drain your brain.
Yeah, we're both kind of in that same. We're gonna get another high. This movie came out when Eminem was kind of like so his music at the time I was a little bit more familiar with, and like you couldn't have had this movie come out at a better time for him to kind of raise his stardom. Mm-hmm. A lot of his music does not really gravitate towards me. So sure. I when the movie came out, I was like, could care less. Like awesome that we got a rapper from Detroit. I'm not from Detroit, so whatever. Also rated R. So I was like, this seems like a really kind of uncomfortable movie for me to watch. Not to necessarily say that I'm like, closed off or shaded from that stuff, but I just was like, I'm not going to get into it.
Right.
And seeing it now, and the first time I kind of saw it was like, I've seen the whole film, but I probably watched 4 different chunks of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there was really anything in here that I had seen. There was a couple scenes that I had not seen. The Greg Dole stuff had not seen. So like, I know that when I was watching some of that, I was like, oh man, this is new to me. But kind of looking back at it now and playing out history, boy howdy, Eminem could not have hit this better on the head for his career.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Jasmine on the way home, and I'm like, you got to think, like, this guy, he had 3 albums come out before this movie was released, right? So at that time, I guess 3 albums, you're maybe getting into like a prodigious state, like where people kind of, they know your name or they know that they like Eminem.
Yeah.
But it's still not like, you're not set in stone, a lot of things can go wrong for you at that point. Releases a movie, like you said, commercial success, and then hits probably the number 1. This thing won an Oscar. I gotta imagine the Lose Yourself. It's still, like you said, ubiquitous to this day. I know high school kids, with me coaching football, still will play that song. And everyone throws up their hands and they're singing with it. Like, you couldn't have hit a more legacy building song for yourself, especially that early in your career. So watching this again, a little bit with history on his side now.
Yeah.
It opened up the lens for me a little bit to check this thing out. And then just from a story standpoint, you got this white trash dude struggling to make it in a very interesting setting where he is now the fish out of water, with all these African Americans around him that don't necessarily like him just because they don't feel like that he can really speak to them on what he's going through.
Right.
So, and being going to Muskegon, I know what that was like, kind of talking to friends about it, because it's like I can't really relate to what they're going through, but I can tell you how it's kind of shifted my perspective, seeing me being the one out of the, the few out of the many, So, it was very interesting.
So and I'm glad you brought it up, because I was going to bring it up eventually, just sort of like, because I'm going to invoke the video that I sometimes like to watch.
It's a great video.
Of Muskegon versus Rockford, of your little snippet of interview that you give when you're 18 years old, talking about how you're the only white player on the Muskegon football team. And
then they highlight it.
Not only do they highlight it, they zoom in and they circle around you.
Yeah, like you couldn't find me.
Right. It was like a where's Waldo, except it's where's Whitey in this situation.
Yeah. The success of the Muskegon run game starts up front with senior guard Mac Parker. Mac lives in a different school district. He didn't have to come to Muskegon. He chose to. Tim Parker, Mac's father, is a teacher and coach at Muskegon.
Good, nice job.
I've basically been going to all Muskegon games my whole life. My dad's been coaching here, so I've just been around, this environment my whole life. So like when I came in my 9th grade year, the only transition I really had to make was just getting my friends in.
Mac Parker is the only white player on the Muskegon football team.
People call me Uncle Cracker and the Milkman. And when I said the Milkman, we just all busted out laughing, because I'm white. So we all thought it was kind of funny at the time. So I just been going around telling people I'm the Milkman.
Number 77, Milkman, Mackie Parker!
Everyone just kind of accepted me. And the football team, it's just, we're all brothers. It just really doesn't matter what skin color you are.
But, I was going to sort of bring that up because, it's not the exact same situation, but there is sort of like a relatability that you probably have being someone who, is of a more Caucasian nature, surrounded by African American peers.
The one thing that I really liked out of this, because I had the same viewpoint when I transferred to Muskegon, was I will earn respect with my game on the football field. You know, like my peers, it won't be white and black. It'll be mutual respect out of everyone.
It's not going to be what you look like. It's going to be what you can bring to the table.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of it might be like it's one of those things where you could scoff at it, but until you're actually in that scenario, you know, like you really have no idea what it's like when you got to go, all right, my game's got to speak for itself. So I really appreciated what he was going through, and his friends telling him, not necessarily himself believing it, but them going, dude, if you can rap, they're not going to care what you look like.
Right.
You can rap, you know? And I was like, I love that. Like he really just has to buy into that motif, you know? And if he can, he's going to be all right, you know? And it took him a while. But that's it's a very interesting thing. We went to Hackley Hospital and we had to speak. I think there was like 3-4 people either from the high school or the football team, one of the two. And you know, it was 3 African Americans and you know, me, the Caucasian of the group. And I actually did mine on not reverse racism, but like reverse perspective, you know, and talking about that stuff where it's, you know, I'm a white male, so I don't have a whole lot of problems in life, you know, when it comes to like communities and joining and being the outsider. Except when I transferred to Muskegon, I was like, it's a really interesting perspective to gain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, Eminem didn't really have to go through that, but when it came to being accepted in a community that normally wouldn't accept you, like you've got to, you know, step up your game. And you know, some of the raps were okay.
So I think it says a lot to this movie's credit, perhaps, that, you know, just my surface level knowledge of this, I thought he was literally just playing himself. Like, I thought this was, like, literally a movie about, like, I thought the character's name was going to be Marshall Mathers.
I did, too.
And that, like, this is supposed to be, like, him portraying himself, telling the story of, like, his own rise to fame and, like, the upbringing and the struggles that he went through, specifically like with him, you know, as a person.
Think so. Just because I was like, I want to Wikipedia this and see like what is what. Yeah, he actually did get fired from Little Caesars, Pizza in Warren. And then so he took a job working at a restaurant. So like the manufacturing plant that he was there, he had his daughter. And he was working 60-hour shifts. And so just like in the movie where he was saying like, hey, I gotta, you know, like, hey, you get the extra shifts, you're trying to get to 60, here you go, you know. So some of that stuff was true. I mean, he was living with his mom. I don't know if he had a little sister. I feel like she was kind of supplanted in there.
I think that was a creative liberty from the movie's part.
Well, I think they put her in there as a perspective of him having like a daughter. Yeah, because he did have a daughter. So instead of having a daughter and throwing his Kim, is it his ex-wife, baby mama thing?
I thought because like you're
not
talking
the movie
about
in real life.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think her name's Kim. The baby mama.
So it's confusing because the actress who plays his mom in the movie is Kim Basinger.
Yes.
Which we'll get to.
Yeah. So, anyways,
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think they had that little girl in there, so you had some of that. Like he is caring for her as well because the mom, you know,
because the mom, you can't trust her for shit.
Yeah, unless she wins bingo.
Well, that's true. She pulls her worth finally at the end of the movie.
Who knew bingo paid out that much?
Apparently we're gonna start playing it.
That's what soon. I was about to say. I'm like, dude, if you can hop in for free and walk
Neon Crew bingo night.
We're not hosting.
No. I'm saying like we're gonna report on it.
Oh yeah. We're going to see what the cash payout is.
We're gonna document it. We're gonna hopefully win.
She had to have paid like $50 to get into that game.
We're gonna use the money to buy a studio.
Hell yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
We're gonna finally get out of this trailer park, Mac.
What are you talking about? This house is great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I bought it with real money and it hurt when I signed the check. So yeah, no, I mean, I feel like there's a lot to get into. It's hard to, I think, start at like one specific spot.
What do you do?
So I will say this movie, I mean, I'll just be honest right out the gate. I don't think it grabbed me nearly as much as I was hoping it would.
Yeah.
Just like level of investment, like narrative wise, it is very straightforward and kind of simple in its storytelling.
Even the camera work is the cinematography of this thing sucks.
I'm conflicted on that because the way it's filmed and the camera angles specifically are, nothing to shake a stick at, right?
No.
Like they're very simple and straightforward. But then this movie also does kind of have like a grungy griminess to it that I do like.
I agree.
Because it adds to the atmosphere.
Well, it's where we're at.
But how much of that is the cinematography and how much of that is like the production design and the fact that they actually filmed in Detroit to get these shots? I think that just adds a level of authenticity to it that I do appreciate.
I did 100%.
Yeah, but just like on a narrative level, this movie is... fairly straightforward. It's very like character driven, obviously, because it's about him. But the way it goes about it is sort of that kind of dated way of, I can see where this is going. I can see like where the story beats are headed and like what to expect. And I don't know if like that's necessarily to blame on the structure of the script itself or just how ubiquitous this movie is in terms of like, I know he's going to have the rap battle at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I know that there's going to be some like falling out with like him and his mom. I know that there's going to be like these narrative beats that the movie kind of has to hit because this movie just has a status.
Now, when they do it though, that's the thing, when you're in the moment.
Right.
It's coming, but once you get in that moment, was it effective?
And I think sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't.
Okay.
I think some of the times that it is when, the end when he does have the rap battle and there's like quite literally the mic drop of like, your name's Clarence, you went to a private school, like that whole thing going on. It's like, yeah, it's pretty hype. But then the sort of like conflict with like him and his mom and like the plot point where he like goes to this radio station and he finds Alex banging the one guy Wink or whatever his name is. I don't know. Those are just plot beats where I'm like, okay, makes sense. Sure, I get it. Like this is something the movie's doing. It's in line with like where it was going, but it's just I don't know. I just don't feel the attachment I would have liked to in those moments.
Yeah, it probably speaks more to how you gravitated towards Jimmy at the beginning.
Yes.
Because if you accept that where he's at in life, podunk, he fucking works at a manufacturing plant, can barely hold that down. Having sex left and right. Like, of course, you're probably gonna get cheated on with or whatever they were. I don't even know how. Like, it was supposed to be like she means a lot to me, but.
Right, and like the movie's credit and to like that character's credit, it doesn't really establish like if they're like romantically involved or if it's literally just like they're horny for each other.
Yeah,
like she really doesn't belong to him, so it's not really cheating, but there is that sort of level of like, I know what I'm doing and it's gonna hurt him type of thing. So
I don't,
there's like a little bit there, but at the same time,
I felt
it's like
more of like she had to do it because that guy was gonna help her make the buck.
Yeah.
And it was like,
and the way they were setting it up earlier in the film, it's like, I can kind of see like the writing on the wall of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's just that level of like, I wish I was more into this. I wish this was something that really pulled me in. And I think the way it's filmed, I think some of the narrative beats, I don't know, they just kind of don't work as well as I would have liked them to.
We had this conversation because we were talking about some of these musical stories that come out, and I was talking about Notorious and Straight Outta Compton, and this one, and I said this what the other Notorious and Straight Outta Compton feel so whitewashed, where it's meant for white audiences, and we have to eliminate a lot of like the conflict that the Notorious or NWA went through.
And I haven't seen Notorious, but I agree with you 100% about the Straight Outta Compton.
Where this one, that sense wasn't there at all. All of it kind of felt
for sure
organic and genuine. Like a lot of that, I'm sure that wasn't just, it was probably a metaphor for all of the relationships that he's had where guys have picked up a girl that he was after or courting or whatever. Right. And, and probably what fuels his anger in his, raps.
Well, like, absolutely something to this movie's credit that I don't think Straight Outta Compton does nearly well is that because you're with Eminem, Jimmy B. Rabbit the entire time, it really adds that sort of like layer of personability to it where it's like, I kind of care about what's going on with this guy. You at least want him to get through something without it being like a total fucking mess.
Yeah.
Whereas like Straight Outta Compton does have that sort of like straightforward, structured very much like a biopic.
Yeah.
You can kind of see like the pattern of it. You see the same type of shit in like Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
You see the same type of shit in like other, music made biopics about real people. And this one doesn't have that.
That's why I give it credit. I give it a lot of credit. And I think they made this thing. I mean, you're talking about Eminem, whose first, was it Infinite came out first? Or the real Slim Shady
Don't
LP?
ask me about fucking
Dude,
Eminem's music.
I asked Jasmine to look it up. I said, I want to know what was going on before this thing got released. Because like NWA took 20 years, 25 years to come out after. Notorious took about 15, 20 years. This thing came out after he had been on the stage for 4 years. I mean, like, we're talking from pre to post to Chopped, and you're out in the cinema. I mean, like, this could have been started in 99.
It's crazy how if you did something like this today, which I think, sometimes does happen. I can't remember a specific example right now, but I know it's there, where like someone makes a movie about
believable
a person or a musical group not that long after they become big or famous.
Yeah.
And people start to wonder, like, why are we getting a movie about them now?
Yeah.
Like, when they're still alive and they're still popular, like, why don't we just wait and like 20 years from now when they have like a full complete arc?
Yeah.
And with this movie, it works because his whole early part of his life and like upbringing is kind of just a full arc of
that's
like
what
him overcoming something.
Yeah, like that's why. I mean, that's why I really appreciate. I think it's incredible that they were able to do this and actually get it, something that didn't feel disingenuous or slapped together. Now I will say, like, the camera shots, you can definitely tell that they had to get these guys up and probably took a couple shots to get Eminem to be able to interact or do what they needed him to do.
Mm-hmm.
But and I'll say this too, because I was telling Jasmine about it. I think he was better in this than Austin Butler was in fucking Bikeriders.
Eminem is good. I think he's good in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
that was like the biggest thing I was worried about is like, is he gonna be believable as like a dramatic actor?
Yeah.
If she jumps up there, I'm gonna have to get up and take her down.
Okay.
She's very needy right now.
Yeah.
Shout out to Piper, mascot of the Neon Crew.
Yep.
She's very much an active part of this recording right now.
Until she rips out all these chords.
Yes, and then we delete the whole episode.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Piper. She's like, this episode fucking sucks.
You guys talk about Eminem. Neither of you listen to him.
Yeah. You guys talked about Fantastic Four for 5 fucking minutes.
Oh, you could have said 4 minutes, but okay.
I missed opportunity. I can't
right.
really edit it in right now because now we're acknowledging it too much.
Yeah.
But no, Eminem's good. I like his performance in this. It's nothing that like really like I wasn't blown away by it or anything. I wasn't like, whoa, Eminem's got some fucking chops. But he's doing a good enough job.
He's
to
been
be believable.
He's been rapping. You got to just remember too, like this isn't. He hasn't had a whole lot of chances. Hey, first film, you've been on the.
Well, you
scene.
only get one shot.
Yeah, you've been. You're getting here. You've got 5 years of credibility here. We're getting you into a movie. Like there are people that have been. Rick Fox was in Holes, and he was on the earth for 17 more years than Eminem was when he did Holes and fucking sucked.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a little bit of crossover, but it's so hard to just hop into a different industry altogether and nail it. And like, you're looking at him and it's like, he's pretty believable. Like if you didn't know he was a rapper and just threw him in here, like, yeah, a lot of people, I bet you would be like, that was pretty solid.
Yeah, well, and it also helps too that like, not to like at all discredit his acting ability in this movie, but it is something to consider when looking at his performance that he is sort of just playing himself.
Yeah.
And, like I said, not to diminish his performance at all, but it is easier for someone to, when they're trying to play a character, to play to their strengths as an actor. And obviously his strength is going to be what he's most familiar with.
I agree. I'm not knocking that. I could send you clips of people that are like, hey, you're a basketball player, act like a basketball player, that fucking suck.
Oh,
you know what I'm
100%,
saying? Like,
yes. And that's why I add that sort of asterisk in there of like, I'm not saying this to like lower his talent or anything.
It's easier for him to fill in and do it. I think it's still incredible that he's able to do a very good job doing that.
Yeah, because like otherwise, like you said, you get fucking Michael Jordan in Space Jam being like, come on, guys, we have to be a team. Yeah. It's like, no human being talks like that.
Dude, LeBron's more personal on interviews after a game than he was in Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
Like, yes. Anyways.
We got to beat the algae rhythm. It's like, Jesus Christ. So why is it so hard for you to play you?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Like, even in, have you ever, anyways, we're moving past it. But yeah, I thought his performance was pretty, I thought it was pretty good, especially given the time and that the fact that he's only been famous for couple seconds in this, in the realm of the universe.
The most engrossed I was at his performance, and this is kind of like a dual thing going on here, but like him with Brittany Murphy in the factory when they're like getting it on. Not saying that to be like a fucking pervert or anything, but it is like kind of a striking scene in that like they're both really into it.
Yeah.
And, I don't disbelieve for a second that these people are just like horny AF. They want to get it on in a factory, which, by the way, someone would have found them.
I thought so too. Like, I was like doing the math. I'm like, all right, this thing's like a couple miles long. Not everyone's at lunch.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. That scene I really was engrossed in just based on their acting abilities.
Dude, Brittany Murphy was way too early.
She's so good in this movie.
Way too early.
I think she's the best performance in this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's tied for me. Both those two on the camera together, which was another reason why I was like, all right, I have to give Eminem more props because she's a paid actress and he is matching her tone for tone.
Right, exactly.
Like she's not the one carrying the scenes. Like there is like a level of investment from both of them that you're like, this seems pretty genuine.
And this is just purely speculation on my part, but I'm wondering if there was ever a part of her during the filmmaking process of this film that ever went like, is he really going to be able to like match what everyone else is bringing to the table here? And then of course he does.
Yeah.
And it fucking works and they have really good chemistry.
Yeah, it was really, I think the problems that the scenes that I didn't like, probably when he was with his friends. None of that ever felt genuine or...
The worst scene to me is when fucking Cheddar Bob shoots himself in the leg.
Oh my God.
I did not care for that at all. That just felt like goofy Looney Tunes hijinks in the middle of like this weirdly like depressing and dark
in case
semi-biopic.
You don't really think Cheddar Bob's dumb, we're going to prove it.
Yeah.
And it's like...
His character is just solely going to be stupid.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's not even like Cheddar Bob helped him. He did one thing.
Yeah. Honestly, like his 3 goofy friends, I probably could have just done without them in the movie because to me they felt way too like, cartoonish, sort of like stock type characters.
There is... That arena, that environment, that setting, that is kind of how life is. We don't have jobs, we don't make money, we're being held down, and so to get out of it, we just do a bunch of dumb shit, and you got friends that are there, they act like that, they're just goofy, they're not very smart, they just have a totally conflicted view of the world, and so they mask everything with their actions, but it just never felt like he just never felt like he was on the same page with them.
Well, I don't know. To me, it felt like they were kind of out of place because, like, the rest of the movie, at least in my opinion, feels very much like it really isn't that concerned with, like, a typical narrative conflict structure.
Yeah.
Where it's like, there's some heightened things going on here and there with, like, the free world conflict and, his interactions with, like, Brittany Murphy and, like, the whole, like, air quotes cheating thing. But, like, for the most part, it all feels pretty organic and lived in. And then you get these guys coming in, and they're sort of acting just like cartoon characters. And it takes me out of it whenever they show up. That's
where I was at, too. I think, I don't know if they were there for comic relief, because it's something like, I don't want to say incredibly dark, but it's a dark film, you know, and it's a real life kind of look in at this area. I don't want to say cartoony. I don't want to say is the right word. I mean, that's how you feel. So, you know,
they just feel more like archetypes than they do people.
I guess it's hard to. It's kind of like he's got no one to relate to, so that's the group that he pulls. Like you get a bunch of misfits.
Yeah, I get it. They're supposed to be like the misfit toys. Yeah. They don't quite like fit in with everyone else,
and that's probably why they were a little bit. They stood out more than what they probably should have.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I really did like his buddy Future in this.
Yeah.
I thought he was pretty fun. I liked his dynamic with Jimmy.
Almost like a mentor.
Mentor, but like also that type of friend that you need that like is telling you when you're being a fucker.
Yeah.
Like, hey, quit being a little piece of shit and like actually take this seriously. Like dude, I'm trying to help you with this.
You got this. Please just go and do it.
And like he's just that type of dude where like he does so much for him, and then like when they do have that sort of like falling out and they get back together, he's like, oh man, shut the fuck up about that apology. It's all good. And it's like, this is just genuinely nice. I like seeing this.
Yeah.
This is so effectively good.
Yeah.
And his acting is also just assisting it the entire time. I thought he was really solid. There's fucking Michael Shannon. We teased him in the last discussion.
Love Michael.
He pops up, and I said it earlier, but I did the whole Leo point to the screen thing.
Yeah.
And he's not in it very much, but when he is in it, I am enjoying it the entire time.
Same. I mean, he played that character really well.
He's just like kind of stoned, lightly drunk, kind of like white trash, aloof boy who's like waiting for a settlement check. So like you get the sense that he's trying to like put on this appearance of having like a normal life, but at the same time he's just an unabashed piece of shit.
I think it was more of like because I'm banging your mom, I have power over you now, even though we went to high school together.
Which is funny because I was reading that I guess Eminem was older than Michael Shannon when they were filming this.
Dude, really?
Yeah.
Holy fuck. Michael Shannon's so young.
Yeah, but it's also something to be said that like he might have been 24 when they were filming, and he looks like he's 36.
Yeah, they did the best part is like, can you believe we went to high school with Craig Dahl, and I was like, Shannon doesn't look that young. I was like, whatever, I'm gonna give it a pass. And now I'm hearing this, I'm like, holy shit.
He looks like he could be maybe his like older cousin or something. Oh
yeah, dude, like it's the same. In Mud, he had this role in Mud where he's like, hey, he's my dad's, like brother's son or something like that. And then Michael Shannon pops up. I'm like, he's supposed to be 29? Like, come on.
Yeah.
But now I'm here and I'm like, oh shit. He's just always probably looked old.
Yeah, I think so. You watch him in Kangaroo Jack and he doesn't even look that young. He's just...
Okay, we'll never, ever mention Kangaroo Jack on the show again. Okay?
Don't say that because you're going to tempt me. You're going to tempt me, brother. And you can't afford to tempt me when you're wearing a Ballard Christian Church shirt.
No one can see it. No one can see it.
I could see it.
Yeah, no one can see it.
Yeah.
But we all know movies, and you just referenced Kangaroo Jack, so that makes it sound like you've seen it more than once.
Yeah, call me the Satan of movies. I'm bringing up Kangaroo Jack.
Movies that never, ever happened.
In movies that don't exist?
Yeah.
Kangaroo Jack might be one. I've seen it too many times, though, to say that.
Yeah, there's probably some, like, you got some nostalgic feeling with it.
I mean, a little bit, but at the same time, I acknowledge the fact that there is an inherent frustration with that movie just being alive.
Yeah. So, yeah, Michael Shannon in this thing playing Craig Dahl. Yeah, I thought he was, like... I thought he did a really good job of being like, I know guys like that where they're 26, they're making decent money for where they're at, or they've got some money coming in for where they're at. So like in terms of I don't want to be mean about it, but the area that he was in,
yes,
king of the trailer park, right?
Mm.
Not going to really fly well in the suburbs of Detroit, but in the trailer park, you get to be king shit. And
yeah, he feels like someone who like fully indulges in like whatever the fuck he wants to do, and like, doesn't really give a shit anymore.
Yeah,
the scene where he comes out and he's like, You guys got a cigarette?
Well, you know, he just boned your mom.
Yeah, he's just
that's
fucking...
exactly why he's...
Well, the first time you see him, Eminem walks into the trailer and his mom is like cowboy style riding him.
Yeah, that was a scene that I had missed.
That was jarring.
And I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're really setting up this relationship. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah. And at first, you know, because Kim Basinger, like, she's not, like, you know, young by any means in this movie, but, like, she's not, like, fucking 50 years old or anything.
Right.
So at first I was trying to figure out, like, oh, is this, like, his former girlfriend? Is this his, like, is it, like, an older sister? Is this, like, his mom? You know, and then finally you learn that it's his mom. It's like, oh, okay. She must have had him when she was, like, really fucking young then, because it doesn't feel like there's that much of an age discrepancy there. But yeah, Kim Basinger is also very good in this movie.
I really liked her. I thought she had a great performance.
Mm-hmm. And she's playing it in a way where it's like very believably scattered.
Yeah.
You know, there's like obviously some like undiagnosed mental thing going on with her. Not going to label it at all, but like just knowing that like, yeah, she has some issues, being able to like financially not only take care of herself, but also her daughter, you know, Eminem's little sister in this film, who is sort of like, you know, his
Bonnie.
Emotional crux in this movie on like just a pure parental level.
Yes.
And like we were kind of saying before, sort of representing in real life his situation with his own daughter.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought she was good. And she hits it big at bingo night. So everything's fine.
All's well that ends well.
Despite the fact that, you know, she kicks him out and they fight all the time. There's like screaming and all that shit.
Yeah.
You know, bingo night comes in clutch, I guess.
Dude, repaired a relationship.
Yeah, I guess so.
If that's not conditional, I don't know what is.
Right. So yeah, you know, some really good performances in this.
Who didn't have a good performance?
I mean, I really can't think of anyone specifically, can you?
Papa Doc sucked.
You didn't like Anthony Mackie?
No, sucked.
Are you saying that because of his acting ability in this movie, or because it's hard to see him as anything other than the Falcon now?
No, because I've never liked. So okay, I will say this: the couple times I had seen these popped up. He'd always pop up. So like in this like little mini
I knew
series,
he was in this movie. Like I knew he was gonna be, but like, I'm saying, like the guy.
In the mini series that I had seen of it, he'd always his character came in, never says a word, never does anything. They got the free world, he's running this shit. It's supposed to be Top Gun, whatever. I'm like, I get to see it full way through now. Dude, he has 2 lines. And one is like the one where he's about to kill him. You know, it's like, that's not menacing, you know? And then he gets up there on stage, and like, I was just really, I do like how the film ends with how he dropped the mic. I just wanted to see, you've built up this guy so much, give him some fucking rap. You know, like get him out there and do something.
Let him cook, so to speak.
Yeah,
like, you give him like this much of a hype and reputation. We need to like see him do something.
Yes, exactly. Like that's the part of the you earn respect.
Sure,
he didn't earn my respect throughout this thing. That's why I said he sucked.
I wouldn't say he sucked necessarily. I just think he's underutilized. I think that they didn't do enough to really justify the sort of like conflict being built up to him.
Yes.
Like leading up to him as like the big bad guy that Eminem's going to have to face off against. I agree with you. They could have done more. I don't think he was bad. I just, you know, what are you going to do when you're relegated to one-dimensional bad guy villain that barely does anything?
True. Well, and you know what? I'm going to say it though. Hey, he took the role.
He did.
So
I think it was his first movie that he was in, wasn't it?
I think it's pretty damn close because I mean that's 2001.
Yeah.
So
and it's been 2 decades, and I will say, dude ages well. He looks good.
Yeah, no, and he's a fine actor. Like I think that's what it. And so like when you asked did it change my mind? No, it's I think maybe a little bit more frustrating that we've seen what he's capable of doing, and now you go back and you're looking at this like, dude, you just played like heavy number 3.
Right.
You know, but we're going to attach a name, a face. You're going to kind of be like who he's going to square off against, and you're going to be the ultimate. And it's like no lines. He just looks menacing the whole time. And I don't know if he could have did more with like I always think about Philip Seymour Hoffman and Twister. you off the camera, you do enough for like, hey, we got to get him some lines. We got to feed him some stuff to get this guy on the camera. I don't know if they had like shoots where it's just like he can't rap or do well. Like we're just going to kind of just have him off in the distance.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily disagree. He was very relegated.
I know what you're saying. You can't. Yeah. You're like, I can't knock the guy because it's like he never got the ball thrown to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm like, well, he never got open. So.
I can't call him a bad player if he never got a chance to swing. Yeah. You know, tying it back to baseball. That's a reference to our last episode.
Yeah.
Go listen to it. It's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of how that came out. Yeah. I mean, there's like the sort of bad. I mean, I really like the intro of it and how he's kind of, psyching himself up. He's throwing up. People are banging on the bathroom. He's in a very shitty looking bathroom. He goes up. He's nervous. He, can't get the words out. He chokes. They all start yelling choke.
Yeah.
And then, it's a good lead up to like when you finally do see him freestyle. And it's like, oh, he does fucking have the ability. But of course, it's Eminem.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he?
There's funny. So I don't know if it was like necessarily scripted, but they said that he would rap off of how the guys were rapping. Mm-hmm. So like maybe like if their tone changed with a couple lines, he would switch up the lyrics.
Yeah.
So it would leave the other rappers confused.
So what I read that was super interesting, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
One of the more interesting factoids I read about this was that because they had a lot of extras in that rap battle scene where there's lots of periods in the takes where they're not really doing anything, and so they would get bored.
Yeah.
Well, because they got bored, they would start an actual rap battle between each other. And Curtis Hanson noticed this, and he picked out from the group like who was the best of the freestyle battle rappers.
Yeah. And
he would put them in the movie. And at first it was more of like a thing of like, oh, we just need to get like a scene of you doing this with Eminem. Eminem, you're going to just kind of like stay silent and not really react to it. You're going to kind of like mime a reaction after he does it.
Yeah.
And then they would give their sort of bar, so to speak. And Eminem decided to actually do it. Was that not the whitest way I could have possibly said that? They give their bar, so to speak?
Yeah, I think I definitely... You've had a couple here where I'm just biting my lip.
Listen... You can take me out of the honky, but you can't take the honky out of me.
No, I could tell. Give them their bar, so to speak. Go ahead, take your bar, sir.
God damn it. Your bars are ready for you, sire.
So they had... I want to hear the rest of this. I'm very interested if you just keep... You got it, man. You're your own Eminem.
You only got one shot.
Yeah.
Do not miss your chance
I
to
can't.
blow.
I wish we could just see how many people turned it off at about an hour 56.
Oh, I will be able to.
Yeah.
After this comes out. It's like, when I started being turbo Caucasian is when they turned the episode off.
You've leaned into a couple of these things the opposite way. Not straying from my heritage.
My own attempts at being articulate are biting me in the ass so hard.
Well, that's the hard thing about the rap style,
That's the hardest part about the game, man.
Yeah, man. Like it's being able to come up with the flow.
Chewed up, spit out, boot off stage, let me tell you. No, like after they would have their turn, Eminem would actually rap.
Okay, so that's what they did.
Yeah,
that's
like
what
he wasn't necessarily supposed to, or he wasn't expected to, but
right.
he would lay it out, and they would just go with it.
Dude, tell me that's not the fucking coolest thing you've ever heard, though.
It's very cool.
I
packaged it in a very uncool way.
You definitely did. I mean, like, I don't know if you're trying to shit on this film or make people
really
not like it, but you did it in a way where they might not hear our ratings now. But that is awesome, though. Like, imagine, like, you're an extra. You've just done these rap battles, and then the director walks up to you. It's like, I don't know your name, but you spit some ill bars. You're going up there.
Oh, the bars that you just spat were the illest. Let me tell you, son. How about you shake my hand, and I'll give you a record deal.
And freaking...
You can spin some of your bars at the studio.
The illest. They're the illest.
Quit trying to make the illest a thing. It's not going to be a thing.
It'll come back. I got it. Bars, so to speak. I don't know. That might be our next shirt. Dude, and you get Eminem up here, who's like gaining notoriety, and like you're rap battling Eminem, and the directors are sitting back like, "Hey, this is it," you know. That's awesome to me.
It would have been very cool to be there.
Like in Space Jam, hey, we got Ewing and Barkley and these guys and Jordan. And it's like you just throw out a basketball, and in between takes, you're just playing like 2-on-2, 3-on-3. It's like, we're just gonna film some of this and take that, and you're like watching these guys do what they do and being competitive. You know, it's like the camera's just on, but they have no idea, so they actually get to be organic.
Yeah,
like that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really cool element that I think comes through on screen.
Yeah, it really helps out with that final scene, right? Like that makes that final scene really that much more impressive because it feels like there's a lot of passion. And it doesn't feel directed or staged.
No, and it helps too that I was also reading that the amount of time that they had in between their sets, they were accurate to the runtime of the movie. Like if they said 90 seconds, 90 seconds would actually pass.
Yeah.
If they said a minute and a half would actually pass.
They probably did. They're up here now. It's just like, hey, let's let them go and just clock it. You know, I mean, that's not like one of the things where you have to do like a whole bunch of different shoots because. I mean, really, you probably set up a couple different cameras, right?
Yeah.
Splice it together.
Going back to that simple cinematography.
Yes.
Not a whole lot of complication in the filmmaking, but, you know, it's fine for the most part. Yeah, what do you think of that final smackdown that Eminem has on Papa Doc? That's sort of like... Your name's Clarence. You grew up in a public school.
No. Your name's Clarence, and Clarence's parents had a real good marriage.
Yes.
I liked it. There was the funny thing about it was he catches on that Papa Doc. Oh, that's just his name's Clarence. I go to school with his sister. He went to Cranbrook. You know, so like all the stuff that he picked up on, he's just been storing. So I like that. And I was telling this to Jasmine. I was like. It's a really unique way to put it in a monologue-esque format, you know, where it's like, hey,
It seems very difficult.
Huh?
It seems very difficult, like
for him to do
for like any average person to do.
Yeah, to come up with a rap about a guy that like is fictitious, right?
Yeah.
And that like here's a couple things that you know about him, spit, you know. I thought it was very interesting that Eminem doesn't have a whole lot of lines in the thing, but the lines that he delivers that are the most impactful are the rap battle stuff. And that was like a really cool thing, that very end there, for him to overcome a lot of stuff in his own little monologue. That's already a unique take on what monologues are.
Yeah.
And he's not necessarily force feeding us information about how he's grown or the growth that he's going through, but necessarily like attacking Clarence with it, also recognizing in himself, hey, this is what I have to overcome, but you're not going to be the guy that stops me.
Yeah, and also like, yeah, very much that thing of like, you can't make fun of me, I'm going to make fun of me.
Yeah.
So like,
Plays a little bit
you won't have shit to say to me.
I didn't really even like that. Like it was like, oh, okay. Well, the reason why I'm like whatever is because Cheddar Bob there's like, hey, aren't you worried that he's going to talk about Wink fucking your girl and you being trailer trash? And he's like, oh shit, damn dog, yeah, that's true. You know, like I'm like saying, I'm like, fuck, like okay, great, but like I took it more so in the fact that he finally recognized I can do this, and like you're only one obstacle in my way. You're not the guy. Yeah, you know, and for him to get up there and go, you know, fuck, I'll go acapella, fuck a Doc, fuck a Pac, you know, fuck all y'all. I'm white trash, and I say it proudly.
Yeah,
you know, like it was just really. I think I bought into a lot of what he was going through, and to see him get to that point of like overcoming it, you know, and hit it like that, it was rewarding.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about with 8 Mile?
No, I you know, it's a very, like you said, it's a very simple film, but I think it lies more so in the characters and believing the story of what, you know, Jimmy's going through. I think that's where a lot of it lies in the performances of what you get with everything going on. Because it's like the camera work, and I'm like, damn, this is like, ugh. It's all right, but the production's cool.
It's fine. It does what it does.
Yes,
yeah. That's not the main focus, but it would have helped if it was like a little bit more stylistic in a way.
Yeah, just a couple different things that you could have did to make it pop a little bit, but. That final rap battle scene is one of the better, entering the arena, entering the gauntlet, and having to overcome, and especially you got these three guys and they have all this shit on you, and it's a really fun way, and especially learning now that unscripted. Here you go, both you guys, and to have them have those performances. I used to have that rap battle on Napster. Like I loved it that much. It was like a 5.5 minute thing, and I used to listen to it all the time because I was like, man, this is just so good. So now to even learn that was freestyled, like cherry on top.
Let's get into ratings. You can go first on this one.
Okay, I had this at a. So the funny thing is, I had it at a 7 out of 10, just from my IMDb, and then I watched it and I gave it an 8 out of 10, and then I sat there and thought about it a little bit more after I had seen it. I am giving this a 9 out of 10.
Oh damn.
This is a film that it's a very
more like 9 Mile. Am I right,
dude? I'm telling. Well, rest in peace, 9.
You were eaten too soon.
Who delivers the eulogy?
10? Probably numbers 1 through
because it's not
6.
It's not or 7. No, because 7,
well,
8,
7's 9. In jail.
Yeah.
7's incarcerated.
I think 10's given the eulogy.
Yeah.
Boy, this joke's just going way too far in my head. I got to get back on track.
Yeah, sorry. I threw you off with the, they have bars, so to speak.
Well, and then I thought about 10 cheating on 11 or cheating on 9 with 11, and then 11 comes apart, and then it's 2-1. So he's walking, so he's like tagging two number ones. Yeah. So I said too far in my head. Anyways.
Your brain's like M&M's. It's just rapid fire.
Dude, it's clicking. I'm already on to like the next stage of verse 20. No, so it's a great look at Detroit being in the city, the environment of which they're going through, and I didn't think it was too whitewashed or anything where it felt disingenuous or generic. I mean, it's a very good look in probably some of the what happens in the lives of others in that area. And then you got Eminem, who at the time, that's why I gave it a 7. I was like, it's Eminem, great. Like, he came out with the film. But then I look back, I'm like, dude, he's got 3 albums out. So he's kind of just getting his name out there. He comes out with this banger, and then he releases Lose Yourself, which is still prominent to this day. Like, in the zeitgeist of films, this probably won't get recognized that much. But, like, I really feel like it's a very easy story to follow. But it's got some really fun moments. And then, the weight of what was going on to be able to, like he says, capture it like that. I mean, he knocked it out of the park. And I got to give props to that.
Yeah. So, full disclosure, I saw this. I had it at a 6.
Ooh,
and
wow.
This is one where, like, I kind of let it sit for a bit. I watched it probably like 4 days ago. Mm-hmm. And after our discussion, after sort of like marinating on it a little bit, I still have my issues with it. It's very visually, cinematically uninteresting for the most part.
Agreed.
There is just some like story beat stuff that I wasn't as into as I would have liked to have been. But at the end of the day, this is sort of a very kind of ubiquitous type of movie involving very like light biographical depiction of a musical artist. Eminem, I think, does a really good job. I think Brittany Murphy kills it. I think the strongest parts of this movie far and away outshine the weaker elements. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I would say this is a high 7 out of 10.
Boom, let's go.
So I'll have to adjust my rating on Letterboxd, but that is not an issue at all.
Nice. That's the first time I think I've heard you change a score from a conversation.
I've done it, I think, a couple times.
I'm saying up, not down. We've gone down.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'd have to look
it's
back.
It's happened where we've gone down.
I'm curious of what those are. I can't remember them right now.
I'd be curious too, but that I'm happy that you did that because I'm telling you, I was a 7 out of 10 guy with this thing, and kind of like reflecting on it, like you said though. I mean, some of the stronger points outweigh the weaker points, and you gotta take focus on what's prevalent versus what's
what's maybe hindering it.
Yeah, the cinematography is not very great, but
yeah, well, take it or leave it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, they have bars, so to speak. Well, speaking of bars, you get to spit some bars in that you get to make the next recommendation.
Yes. Okay. I always do this because I try to pair it up best I can. Anything coming out in theaters that you know that we want to see.
Let me look right now.
I pulled it up for 1 second and just made sure Twisters was on the 19th.
Okay. I think there's some stuff. I always have to go to tomorrow's shit, which it's already on because it's so late in the night. We're recording this very late. And no one's going to care that I said that. So there's... Oh, are they playing Kinds of Kindness near us? That could be interesting. Yorgos Lanthimos.
I know, but I don't have anything to pair his shit with.
That's fine. Otherwise, there is The Watchers, that movie that M. Night's daughter made. We could talk about that. I've heard some interesting things.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
That's not my recommendation,
great.
but I can. Well, yeah. It's, I mean, Shyamalan's attached to it. Shyamalan, ding dong.
There's the blood in the movie, the bloodline of M. Night. You know?
Oh yeah, God! I thought you were doing a whole.
I'm
other
so
movie
fucking
thing. I was
tired.
like,
I'm
what
sorry.
is the
I'm just.
blood?
There's the. I'm
It's like read off the summation. What is this thing?
I'm
the
losing
blood,
my
and
mind.
The bloodline, and then
This
I
is-
thought of Reigns.
My
Roman Reigns, the bloodline.
My memory
WWE.
banks are falling apart as we're speaking.
Oh my God! It's like Inception in your brain. You know, when he wakes up and it's just the buildings collapsing.
Isn't Inception in the brain anyway?
What?
Anyway, what's your recommendation?
I'm just gonna do it.
Do it.
I've
Rip it.
I've
Let it
had
rip.
this for a month now. I've never heard this film until I was on the lovely Twitter or X, and I got a little bit of information on it.
Okay.
All right, 1977
Okay, an oldie.
movie. I'd never heard of it. Couple prominent actors in it. Right, good director directed it. Movie's called Sorcerer.
Okay.
Now, hold on. Before you look up anything else up, what do you think it's about?
I barely even saw the poster. So, Sorcerer. I'm gonna guess it's not about an actual sorcerer. I'm gonna
Right.
guess it's gonna be a more heavy subject matter, maybe.
Okay.
You said I don't know the prominent actors in it. I saw that it was a real William Friedkin. But yeah, I can't really guess beyond that.
Okay. I just wanted to know because all I saw was the title and the movie poster, and I was confused. And then I read some more information on this thing, and I was like, oh, hey, I put it on my watch list, and then I saw who was in it and what it was about. It's kind of like a Parker film, really point A to point B with some obstacles put in the way.
Is the poster of a bus?
Let me see it. Yeah.
And yeah, it's like a bridge type of thing, and there's
Yeah.
a bus, and it looks like it's gonna fall off, and there's a person in front of it, kind of like shielding themselves. Yeah, this is going on the watch list.
So we're not going to tell anyone what it's about. You guys check it out. Cause we'll talk off air. You can at least read this because I only know the summation of it.
Okay. Yeah, I know nothing except the poster. I'm just gonna go into it as fresh as I can. Cool. Sorcerer and The Watchers.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one. I'm curious because I had that one. I was like, I think I put it on my watch list.
Okay.
Yeah, which is not great though. That hearing it. Oh, who knows about reviews? You never know.
Yeah, it could be fun to dunk on.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Damn, spit those bars, dog.
Yeah.
So to speak.
So to speak. Well, speaking of speaking, cool. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to check out The Watchers from M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, whose name I cannot recall right now. It's so fucking late, you guys. I don't think you guys have any idea how late it is for us. It's Ishana Night Shyamalan. The Watchers from Ishana Night Shyamalan, and also Sorcerer from William Friedkin. If you don't want to be spoiled for those films before our discussion, be sure to check those out before episode 76. Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 75 of the Neon Crew podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and be sure to give us some 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Check out our various social medias where we'll announce what films we're going to be talking about in upcoming episodes on Facebook and YouTube community. Be sure to check out our merch. Go to our Etsy page. We got those available for you guys. Shout out to Sam for the night call. If he has one this week. If he doesn't, then don't worry about it.
Unshouted out.
Unshouted out. Revoked.
Yeah.
Denied. So to speak. Shout out to Gideon for doing our music, and shout out to Lauren for doing our logo design. You can find their links for their various pages in the description below. I'm going to do a quick shout out to Gideon specifically. Not going to get into the specific details of it, but I'm glad everything is all good with him. Glad he's back home. We brought our boy home.
Same.
So let's give a round of applause for Gideon.
Oh, snaps. You got to do snaps.
Oh, snaps? Why snaps?
Oh, that's just another way of not clapping.
Oh.
Snaps.
'Cause
you're given the due.
They don't like the mics don't like the clapping.
Yeah.
Is that the idea?
Autistically speaking, that's a good thing to do.
Autistically speaking?
Acoustically.
And with that, Mac, do we have anything we want to end this with other than that?
WWTHD.
Bye, everyone. Burn it down.